Hey everybody, how are you doing? Happy Valentine's Day. Let me be the first to say it to you, hopefully. Let's throw some stickers up there on the screen. Spreading love far and wide for everybody. Boy, I should have checked to make sure you can actually see and hear me. But I am going to go out on a limb and assume that you can, in fact, see and hear me. And that's oh so sweet. Let's see here. So, how is it going? I'm actually going to check the chat, and no one has said they can hear me yet, but no one has said they can't hear me, so I'm going to assume that's okay. I see some people asking a little bit more in the countdown. What was one of the games? It was Marvel Age of Heroes. Yes, cheers, everybody. I don't have a mug. Cheers. Okay, yeah, that was Marvel Age of Heroes, which is a really interesting and oddball game. Ever since Shay did the video, a bunch of people have commented, a competitive X-Men game? I refuse! They must always work together. And my response to them is all, have you not paid any attention to the X-Men over the last, 50 years? Their whole MO is dysfunctional family, and they're always breaking up and disagreeing about how to solve problems and splintering into subgroups and all of that stuff. So to me, the fact that it's a competitive worker placement game, themed after the X-Men makes perfect sense. But hey, that's just one bit of Marvel goodness, because today I have got Marvel Damage Control. And I know I said I was going to unbox this, but I couldn't help myself. I've already unboxed it. You can see there is no shrink wrap on it. Jen and I played it yesterday. But I'm still going to unbox it this morning, and I'll actually set it up and give you an idea of how it plays, because I think there's pretty much no information about this, the particulars of the game anywhere online yet. So you're getting breaking news, world exclusive here today. And by the way, thank you, /Burn, for subbing for yet another month. I'm reading the rules of Astro Knights now, hoping to get to the table tonight. Hoping a smaller footprint and quicker setup makes it an Aeon's End killer. How do you feel the two stack up? That's a good question. At the end of the day, there's no choice about it. Aeon's End is the richer, more robust game. Now, one thing it's unfair is to compare Aeon's End with everything that's available for it now compared to Astro Knights, which has just gotten one thing with no actual expansions or anything. And I believe Astro Knights has a little bit less content in it. It has 8 heroes instead of 10, like original Aeon's End. But as I understand it, it was also significantly lower priced than Aeon's End as well, like by 30% cheaper or something like that. Honestly, you described, /Burn, exactly what makes it stand out is that, you can set it up in a fraction of the time and it plays significantly quicker. You ramp up faster, everything. Oh, and it has got one of the coolest new takes on deck building markets that the industry has ever seen. And honestly, I'd be happy if from now on everybody stopped copying Dominion and started copying Astro Knights the way it does its market. But if you like Aeon's End, I think you will like it. I don't see how you possibly couldn't like it. You just have to know going in, it's a little bit more streamlined, it's a little bit lighter, but it's everywhere bit as thematic and fun and cooperative as Aeon's End has ever been. I hope you enjoy it, /Burn. But anyway, let's see. Also, it looks like that is the outstanding stuff at the moment. So I think, folks, we got 3 things to do today. I'm going to open this up. I am going to set it up, and I'm going to play a turn so you can see what damage control is all about. And then I am going to continue the Rahdo Rankening, which I haven't really given the series a name yet. I've just been calling it Rahdo Ranks, but I kind of like the name, the Rankening. So I think I'll be continuing with episode 4 of the Rahdo Rankening, and then we'll end it with recording the next episode of the Rahdo Talks Through Podcast, where I've got 1.5 billion questions. So one thing, I'm going to try to keep the Rankening a little bit shorter. It's been going like 40 minutes the first few times I've done it. I've literally got my phone here, and when I start, I'm going to put a timer on it to try to keep myself down to like 25 minutes so I have more time for the podcast. Because I'm actually thinking, people seem to love the Rankening, that I might as well switch to maybe it being like, instead of once a month like I was originally thinking, maybe bi-weekly. But anyway, that's all for the future. Let's talk about the present. Let's talk about this right here. Let's unbox a game. Let's get my overhead camera up. And of course, my camera is being very shy. Let's reset the camera. Activate. There we go. Boop. And that's the wrong view. That's everything that's just off to the side. Here's all my other extra stuff. There's Alexa. Here's my green screen. But we got to come over here. Boop. All right. Let's see. Actually, I can probably go on top. There we go. Yeah, it's fine. That'll do. Alrighty, so. On screen, centered? Yes. Let's do this thing. So, hey, folks, it's damage control. Marvel's cleanup crew. Epic battles between heroes and villains decide the fate of the world and keep citizens safe, but often these brawls leave a path of destruction in their wake. After the dust settles, somebody must pick up the pieces. That's where the damage control team comes in. Each player leads a rival cleanup crew tasked with finding and securing dangerous artifacts and technologies buried in the rubble. Doc Ock's severed tentacles, damaged Ultron drones, Terrigen crystals, and more. You'll use your deck of damage control employees to demolish, uncover, and collect the rubble cards in search of valuable items, which you will then add to your deck. It's a deck builder. You can use items' powerful abilities to make your deck stronger, and then send them to your vault. It's a deck deconstructor as well, which I always love. Only the items stored in your vault will score at the end of the game, so don't hold on to them for too long. As the Marvel Universe's leaders in cleanup and reconstruction, your team is sure to wreck the competition. So, again, like I said, already open. Here's the rule book. Pretty short and sweet. I have to admit, there were a couple of things I wish they would have specifically stated that they didn't. After I read the rules, when Jen and I played the game, we're like, well, how does this work? And like, well, okay, you never actually said I can play a card into a space that's already been played, but I don't see how the game works if you can't do that, so I'm going to assume you can do that. So, overall, I'm going to give the rules a B-. It would have been nice if they'd just been a little bit clear on a few more things. But anyway, here we go. What just happened? Flying Stux Rocker, thank you for rocking the place by resubscribing with Prime. You've been at it for 6 months. I appreciate keeping the channel going. So anyway, the game does have a solo mode, so I'm just going to set up for a solo mode. This is my desktop. This is the portion of the rubble-strewn city. After the Avengers took down whoever, let's say Kang, in Quantumania. I can't wait, folks. Oh, it's going to be crazy. I'm definitely going to be there opening day. But on opening day, Jen is going to be down in Central Oregon visiting her folks with her sister who flew up. And so I'm not going to have a car. And the nearest movie theater is like 14 miles away from me. So on Thursday, I am going to bicycle 14 miles to go see, Ant-Man Quantumania on the opening day so I can avoid spoilers. I haven't watched a single trailer for it. I don't know anything. Make mine Marvel. I'm so excited. So anyway, this is if you're playing a solo or a two-player game. The construction or the destruction zone gets bigger because you got these little extenders that make the space bigger for a 3 or a 4-player game. So what else do we have? We have a whole bunch of these tokens, which we just call bucks, but thematically they represent influence with the various superheroes. And if I recall correctly, everybody starts with 1 influence, right? And you can earn more over the course of the game. And let's see, everybody has their desktop and they have their vault. Because we're going to be finding artifacts left over from the battle, and we can use them ourselves to continue to clean up, or we can store them in the vault, which is how they turn into points. So you always have that tough thing. Oh, this is an incredibly powerful card. If I get rid of it to score these 3 points, I'll never get it again. All right, so, and then the other thing you get, big old deck of cards. All righty. So, and this is all still fairly fresh in my mind because Jen and I played it yesterday. So, there is a list of general purpose artifacts and whatnot that will appear every time you play. Right? I think this is 40 cards. And then on top of that, as part of setup, oh, and here's a little player aid. As part of setup, you are supposed to pick who was in the epic battle between heroes and villains, which are what all of these cards are. These are, it's a deck builder, so you have your starting cards. So, the battles could have been between Asgardians, which, I don't have my, what the heck, I'll just bring it up like this. I don't have time to turn on my green screen right now. So, hey, there's Loki gets into trouble in New York and left some stuff behind, Thor's helmet and whatnot. Or it could have been Vibranium synthesis, which is to say a lot of stuff having to do with, are these out of order? Oh, crap, I didn't put these all back. Oh, no, this is just in the wrong place. That was another Asgard one, right. Okay, and there's another Asgard one. And then, so the Vibranium synthesis, wow, I need to sort these out. Okay, I guess I didn't put it away quite as thoroughly as I thought I did yesterday. And there's a, right. Vibranium synthesis. So basically, there was a fight between Asgardians, Wakandans, Ant-Man, and various shrinky, growy type people, and Doctor Strange, because there's another deck of Mystic leftovers. So here's the Pimtech. Right, Mystic. Right, here's all the Doctor Strange stuff. So I did not do a very good job of dividing all these back when I put them back together. Mystic, and then here's the rest of the vibranium. You know, kimono beads, raw vibranium ore, vibranium claw, etc., etc. So, every time you play, you pick 2 of these factions that were involved in the big battle. Let's say it is Pimtech, in honor of Quantumania that starts this week, and Wakanda Forever, right? The most recent other Marvel. Obviously, I'm sure these were chosen to kind of coincide with the more recent Marvel Cinematic films. So anyway, this is the combination of everything that can be found amongst the rubble, right? And you gotta shuffle it up real good, which, how much time do I spend shuffling? How much time do I make the audience literally wince and recoil in pain as I do a really half-assed riffle shuffle? I really need to learn how to do the bridge thing. I saw Paula Deming doing a, what was it? What's that sponsor that does a lot of, where you can learn online courses? She did one and she thought, it taught me how to riffle shuffle. And then she showed herself riffle shuffling and it was okay, but it wasn't much better than what I can do. So I don't know if it was the greatest ad, but hey, I'm glad Paula's getting paid because Paula is one of the best. So anyway, this is the big old deck of stuff. Probably needs to be shuffled a bit more. And now, as part of setup, you start strewing stuff. And what's supposed to happen is each player, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then 2 face up, 17, 18. Okay. And everybody's supposed to get a fraction of this. And so everybody's supposed to be throwing these in. It doesn't matter if they're kind of hanging over the edge. It's only if it would have been... Actually, I think maybe it has to be a little bit inside the zone, if I recall correctly. So that one had to go back again. But this one's a bit inside the zone. So anyway, there we go. And then here's more stuff that might show up as we start clearing the rubble. Alrighty. So then, because we picked... What did we pick? We picked Pym Particles. So there's Ant-Man and the Wasp who might show up. And we picked, Black Panther and Shuri might show up. And they get randomly shuffled into the deck of the rest of the heroes who just happen to be hanging around New York all the time. So this will be a collection of heroes who are in the neighborhood. They don't stick around for long. So if you want to get them on board, you have to impress them with the work you're doing and maybe exert a little influence to get them to stop and, here we go, and help out. Spider-Man, J. Jonah Jameson, War Machine, Black Panther, and Hulk. And then we've got that deck. Okay, and we're set up, ready to go. But then I also have a starting deck of 2 engineers, 3 construction crew, and... Right, and everybody has this same starting deck of, I think it was 2 engineers and 3 construction crew. And then we also have us. We're the manager of the crew. And let's say I am Lenny Ballinger, one of the simplest ones, but that's okay. So this is my starting deck. And by the way, folks, I am doing all of this from memory. So I might be getting some numbers wrong. Maybe there were supposed to be a few more cards here. But I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be 2 engineers and 3 construction crew. But I do know that the game begins... And your hand size is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and what have I got? Here's what you do on your turn. And this is the same whether you're playing solo or a multiplayer game. You are going to play all of the cards in your hand. After you have played all the cards in your hand, you have the opportunity to recruit heroes, which is part of the deck building you can do, so that you'll be able to use them in the future. And then your turn is over, you'll refill your hand. If your deck is empty, you'll reshuffle, all that normal stuff. So what do I want to do? Well, all these cards do different things. My engineer here can either extract face-up stuff, like this Vibranium Spear or this Pym Particle formula, or instead, you can see there's a little and/or, they can uncover. And what that means is I pick one of the face down cards and flip it because maybe I'm looking for something particular. You cannot interact with stuff unless we've uncovered it first. So that's what my engineer could do. My other engineer could do the same thing. My construction crew could uncover, i.e. flip something up, or they could demolish it. And this is how you make more money. You look at something that's out there that's already face up and you say, oh, I don't want that. But you want that, don't you? That's the perfect card for you. So I play the construction crew, I demolish the thing, it is removed from the game, and I get 2 more influence, as an example. So anyway, what am I going to do? Oh, and then my guy, Lenny Ballard, his thing is, hey, I can have 4 different things I can do. The other characters, some of the characters are a little bit more complex. Lenny's pretty simple. So what do I want to do? Well, let's see here. Looking around, if I were to do that, and are there? Yes, there are. Let's say what I really want is to recruit Spider-Man. Because I love Spider-Man. I love me some Peter Parker. And to do that, at the end of my turn, I will have had to have done 2 uncover actions, and I will have had to play an artifact card that is based on Earth technology, right? So, let's say, as opposed to if I want to recruit Black Panther, he wants to see me extract 2 things, to recover 2 things from the board. And the Hulk, he wants to see me uncover something and smash something, because of course that's what Hulk wants. So depending on what cards I play and how I play them, I will be able to, recruit different heroes, depending on what my overall strategy is. So if I want to get Spider-Man, because he's not worth any points, but he gives me an ongoing power for the rest of the game. As long as he's with me, I can every turn uncover something for free. That's really awesome. Hulk, instead, he is worth 2 points at the end of the game, and I can activate him once by spending 2 of my influence, and what he'll do is he will extract something, but he will also create more destruction. We'll end up drawing another card and dropping it down into the mess. So more stuff might start to show up. Say if Hulk comes around and starts beating the crap out of things. So anyway, I want to recruit Spider-Man. That's my end goal, which means I know I've got to uncover twice. So let's say I use this construction. That's going to be my... Remember, I'm going to play all my cards and then my turn is over. So I'm playing this to uncover something. Let's go on ahead and uncover this one that's almost off the board. And you just flip it over to where it was. The rules are pretty lax. Try to get it roughly to where it was. It's okay. But I just found Shocker's Gauntlet, which is now another thing I could find. Now, I know Spider-Man, he wants me to uncover more stuff. So let's go on ahead and use my engineer, which could either let me extract one of these 3 things, but I've got another engineer. Let's go on ahead and use my engineer to uncover another thing. Now, there is one rule. I can't uncover this. I should zoom in a little bit. Boop. Bippity boopty boop. If you'll notice, there's this radar icon in the center. It says unless that radar is completely exposed, it's considered buried and you can't uncover it. So I could flip that, even though it's a little bit covered, or that. That one just barely, but that one not. Let's just keep it simple. Let's uncover this one. And I found some fan mail. It's not always rubble under here. There are people hanging around watching, and this represents the opportunity that we can make another fan for our team. Hooray. Okay, so I've still got 2 more cards to play. I am now going to use my other engineer to extract. All right, so we put it over here. If I wanted to uncover, I'd play it over here. I'd have 3 uncoverings. But instead, I'm going to play it over here to extract. And now that means I could take any of these cards and add them directly. Oh, I like the Shank says, well, maybe that was somebody who was, just hanging out. And actually, maybe that is somebody they were rescuing from the rubble. I didn't even think about that. You're probably right. Yes, these are people who need to be saved as well, which, of course, makes it incredibly timely for the incredibly sad time we live in right now. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, that there's somebody to save in addition to the artifacts. I don't know why that didn't occur to me when we were playing yesterday. But anyway, so I'm going to be able to grab one of these, and the one I want to grab, because remember, I'm all about trying to recruit Spider-Man, I need to grab one of the cards that has the Earth symbol on it. There are superhero artifacts, there are just normal earthly artifacts, there are alien artifacts, and then there are work artifacts that different people might want to see. Like Black Panther here, he wants me to see me having found more Black Panther specific cards that got shuffled into the deck. So if I want an Earth one, I'm either going to grab Pym Particle Formula or Fangirl. Now that's going to come into my hand, and I'm going to get to play it right away. I think I'll take Fangirl. I mean, Pym Particle, That is 5 points and a more powerful thing. But, yeah, okay, no. I'll leave Fangirl. I'm going to get the Pim Particle formula. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, so this goes in my hand. My turn isn't over until I played everything. So now here's one thing I could do. I could have Lenny, my boss, he could let me uncover something or recover something, or I could shift stuff around and do this action, which is called the collapse. Lenny could trigger collapse. And what that means is when you trigger collapse, the next player takes a card, face up, drops it wherever they want. They have to be at least 8 inches above, and then they drop it. So if somebody sees something they want, but they're afraid I'm going to grab it, if they get the chance, they might cover it up with something else. So now you can't get the Vibranium Spear until the, that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I could do, that's one of the actions. Oh, shoot, I forgot something, folks. When I recovered Fangirl, when I uncovered Fangirl, there was an icon up here. Every time you uncover something new, an event happens. In this case, it was character sighting. That means the Hulk has left. Bye-bye. If I was hoping to recruit him, too bad, so sad. And a new hero came out, because there can't be more than 5 heroes. It's Miles Morales is showing up with Peter Parker. And what was the other one? Because I actually revealed 2 things, right? Oh, it was the Pim Particles. When the Pim Particles came out, we had a Pim-specific event, which was all players got to draw 1 card. So when this first got revealed, everybody, me and everybody else, got to draw a card. So my turn goes even more. I got another construction expert. And then when I revealed that, Miles Morales showed up and Hulk left. So if I was trying to recruit people, I'm still trying to get Spider-Man. Now this is interesting. I could get Spider-Man and Miles Morales because you can recruit multiple people. So let's say I am now going to play my Pim Particle formula. It is going to cost me the 1 influence I have, which I started with 1, and it either lets me vault a card or get 3 more influence. Now, vaulting a card means I take it and I put it under the vault. This does several things. It is how you thin your deck. But it's also, if I want to get this 5 points from the Pim Particle, sooner or later, I have to vault this, which means I put it under here, and I've locked in 5 points. But I've also lost this very powerful tool. So I'm not going to vault this right now. I am instead just going to play it as an artifact, and it cost me 1, but it gave me 3. It's like the Pim Particles let my influence grow. Kind of, sort of. Alrighty, cool. I've still got 2 cards to play. And, yeah. Okay. I am going to use myself not to collapse and make more cards come out, which, by the way, would also make another event happen. If you're desperate for something to happen, there are several different events that can happen depending on what cards are in the deck, depending on what factions you chose. I'm just going to have myself, Lenny, extract another card. And I'm getting Fangirl. All right, boom. And now I've still got 2 cards. This game, the turns go fast, but they are also very rich. Almost every turn you get to do a lot of stuff. I guess it might be a problem at higher player counts, but as a 2-player game, we found we didn't have to wait too long for our turns. So I've still got my construction crew, which I could either use to reveal something else that would cause another event, or I could demolish something and get some more influence if I see something that maybe you want. Or you can always just discard your card instead of playing it, and that means, if you don't like anything your card will do, you can always discard to get more influence. I am going to demolish. Let's say I demolish. Even though the Hulk's not around to be impressed by my demolishing, I am going to get rid of this Vibranium Spear. I demolished it. It is gone out of the game, and that gave me 2 more influence that I'll be able to use for stuff later on. And finally, my fan mail happens. This goes into the artifact section, because I'm not using it. If I was using this for a different type of action, it would go there, but instead it goes here. And it says, hey, get $3 or draw 1 card from my deck, which means I'd play through my entire deck and then remove this card from the game. So if you're desperate for a hero or an artifact that you know is here, but I'm just going to get 3 more. So right out of the gate, I am crazy rich. I am done. That was my turn. I have no more cards to play. And so now, at the end of my turn, I get to recruit. I look at everything I've done. I look at what the heroes who are, or anti-heroes in some cases, want. And remember, I already wanted Spidey, Peter, and Miles. So Spidey wants 2 uncovers. So I pay that, and I pay that. And it also wanted to see Earth Tech. I pay that, and I have recruited Spider-Man. Miles Morales Also wanted to see Earth Tech. See, I had that there. I discard that to show I've spent that. Now, I could potentially recruit a third person. Oh my gosh, I can. I did 2 extractions, so I will pay that. And I'll recruit Black Panther also. And now all I've got left is 1 demolish. If I had actually vaulted something, I could recruit War Machine as well. But okay, so I'm done. Now I'm done recruiting people. The rest of my cards, they also go to the discard pile. New heroes come out, so then when it's your turn, you will have 5 heroes to choose from. And these heroes now live here below my desktop. And here's the thing. You can only have up to 3 heroes hanging out, helping you with the rescue operations and all that. If I ever want to recruit a 4th hero, I would have to jettison one. Now, Miles is worth 1 point. If I spend 2 influence, and I've got a bunch of influence, he will allow me to draw 1 card and reveal a card. Spidey isn't worth any points, but he gives me an ongoing power. For the rest of the game, I'm always going to, anything else my cards let me do, every round I'm going to get to reveal something. And now, that might be good for a while, but eventually I might want to replace him. As the game goes on, I might want to replace him with Ant-Man, who is worth 3 points, because Peter's not worth anything. But this is going to help me out a lot in the early game. And Black Panther is worth 2 points. And as soon as I took Black Panther, I immediately got 3 influence and plus 2 if any Black Panther cards were played this turn. So, if I had grabbed this Vibranium Spear and played it, when I recruited Black Panther at the end of the round, I would have gotten 5 influence. But I didn't quite do that, so I only got 3. And now Black Panther is just taking up a spot. He's not going to do anything for the rest of the game other than give me 2 points if I've still got him on hand at the end of the game. That was my turn. At the end of my turn, I draw, and I need to draw 3 more. So, hey, I've got some cool stuff in here. 1, 2, 3. And although none of them came up, that's boring. Let's see if my next turn could have been a little bit more exciting. Say it came that, and let's say it went really crazy. I got all of these. And on my next turn, when it comes back around to me, if I want to play the PIM formula to be able to use it to get $3 or vault something, I'll have to spend 1. But when my turn comes around eventually, I might use my own power to vault something to put the PIM particles in the vault. So I've locked in those 5 points for the end of the game. So those are the kind of considerations. You're building your deck up, but you're also trying to strip mine it for points by vaulting things as well. Or just vaulting things that aren't worth any points just to get them out of the way so you can get your other cards quicker. And that's it, folks. That was a unboxing beyond for damage control. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, because I got into it. But what do you think? Did that sound interesting at all? Was that fun? Are you not entertained? Hopefully you are. Let me go ahead and just put this off to the side, because I don't think it'll make any sense for it to be here while I'm actually filming the other shows. Everything off camera. Shanks says, I see, that Shanks hopes that there's more to solo than beat your score. It's, I didn't look at it very close because Jen was here, so I got to play it with her instead. But I think it is hey, you know what? To consider it being a win, you have to have scored 20 points. Which in the first game Jen and I played, I did terrible. I scored 17 points, and Jen got 31 points. What else is there about the solo? Can't find somebody to play. As solo, you have to get 20 points to consider it a win. Standard rules for 2-player, but if a card effect targets another player, it targets you instead, so you can be your own worst enemy. Because one thing I didn't mention in all of that is, I showed you the basics, but those 4 different modules, really, the rules say they are very, very different. Let me find the modules. Specifically, where was it when it was telling you about setup, if you were thinking about? The PimTech module allows you to grow your hand or shrink your opponents. Efficiency is key. Mystic Manipulation, the Doctor Strange one, allows you to bring discarded cards back into play. Very sneaky. Your discard pile becomes a big part of the game. Mighty Asgards adds more aggressive, direct action against your opponent. Kinda mean. That's not me. That's me literally reading the rulebook. And Vibranium Synthesis adds more card interaction for advanced players. Test your skills. So, it says you have nobody else. Because this game, I like it a lot. I love deck builders. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff here. But the game also has a lot of, for me to play, one of the basic cards is a Green Goblin Pumpkin Bomb. And whenever I play that, if I recall correctly, it costs me 2 influence to throw the pumpkin bomb, but it lets me grab stuff, and it also lets me destroy one of your influence, right? And so I hated it every round. I was like, okay, I can't vault this thing fast enough because I don't just want to keep robbing Jen blind or destroying her money, basically. And the game has a lot of those kinds of elements in it. It is a very interactive game, and I haven't even tried the Asgard module where it says things can get mean. Let's see. And in addition to the 20 points, the Damage Control CEO also wants you to finish the game with one of the following special character teams. So that's interesting. So it is an objective-based solo game. You must score 20 points, and you must make the Arachnerds. You have to recruit Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and Ghost Spider. Or you have to recruit J. Jonah Jameson plus the Hulks plus any special character from a module. Or martial arts. You have to recruit Shang-Chi and Black Widow and Captain America. Because there are ways that you can go through the deck faster and whatnot as well. So that would be the answer to that question. So it is a score, but it's a score with objectives, which is kind of cool. I didn't realize that. It'd be kind of nice to have those objectives in the main game, too, as an extra thing you're pursuing. Phew. Okay. 1 of 3 segments in the bag. Let me get a drink of water and see how everybody is doing. Okay. All right, we were talking about Astro Knights. Let's see. Is anybody using the question mark? Nope, nobody's using the question mark, so I'll just have to scan. All right. Yeah. Blue Sapphire, you and me both. Very hyped for Quantum Mania. No spoilers, please. I have not watched a single trailer. I don't know anything about what happens other than, of course, the big bad is Kang, which, was announced, and you can't look anywhere without seeing a picture of Jonathan Majors somewhere on board. But I don't want to know anything else, so I can't wait. Hopefully that wasn't a spoiler for anybody. If it was, I feel very bad, and I apologize. Let's see. People were talking about the comics. And enjoyed the ASMR of my shuffling. That's quite nice. I hadn't thought of that. I need to get it faster so I can keep the flow going, I suppose. Or maybe that's anti-ASMR. Don't really know much about it. All right. Somebody is, all right. Mr. Boom is learning riffle shuffling. I love riffle shuffling. It's fun. It also has a really, for me, it's silly, but there's like a really strong nostalgic vibe because I used to spend hours as a kid watching my dad play Klondike. And he was a really master shuffler. And, I would just look over his shoulder and see, I kind of learned how to play watching him play. And sometimes he'd me make choices and stuff like that. But he was just such an amazing shuffler. And I just felt like a silly kid fumbling. I can shuffle the first half, but I cannot do the bridge. But yeah, so riffle shuffling has a very near and dear meaning for me. Let's see here. I see people asking questions about Wakanda Forever, which hasn't been seen by everybody yet. I know it's on Disney Plus now, but I am not going to say anything. Because actually, you know what? I am sorry, Goblin. Can I get rid of that? That's a super spoiler question. And, you're a moderator. Yeah, let's see. I can reply to it. Because I'm not actually in Twitch. No more spoilers. That was a super spoiler. Oh, dear. The damage is done. If people are watching this later, well, of course, I saw the spoiler way too late. Oh, well, I'm sorry, everybody. If I could have spotted that at the time, I would have nixed that instantly, because that is that is such a monster spoiler. Wow. Okay. Right, it looks like, people were chatting. Hopefully people weren't too upset about that spoiler. BGG does not mention a solo mode, Flying Dutchman? You lie! Surely you lie. Board game. My precious board game geek? What is this? This is Damage Control. Marvel Damage Control. Wow, you're right. It says 2 to 4. You know what? Let's fix that right now. Boop. Edit. Maximum players, or minimum players, is 1. I have the rulebook in front of me. Got an advanced review copy, and the last page defines finds the rules for solo challenge mode, which is basically which basically follows the rules of the normal game, plus introduces a team building challenge, plus score 20 VP that you must do to win. Boom! Let's get that set right for the record. That is a real shame. And you know what? I know why that is. I have actually talked to the Z-Man himself, Zev Schlesinger, who is basically the creative director of WizKids, I believe. And he said, yeah, we have kind of this attitude that unless the game is exactly the same, if anything has to change about the game for the solo, we don't refer to it as, we don't officially say it's a solo game. And that's ridiculous, especially because, wait a minute, what's it say on the box? Show me box. Box. The box very clearly states 1 to 4 players. So there were some mixed memos within WizKids, because I'm sure WizKids added this. They were probably trying to follow the, because this is the reason that Fantasy Realms, even though it's a phenomenal, an amazing 2-player game, if you go on Board Game Geek, WizKids, I've tried to get it changed in the past, and WizKids just changes it back to say, nope, Fantasy Realms is a 3-player game, which is insane. But anyway, so hopefully that will be fixed, because I wouldn't want people to be misled. Because what you just saw, it's a shame that you don't have an actual opponent to play against, but there are a lot of things that make the board keep refreshing and whatnot. I suspect it would be a blast, and I really like that idea of the objectives you have to complete to win solo. So that's madness to me that information is literally being hidden from people on Board Game Geek. So hopefully that update will get approved sooner than later. All right, what else is going on? Yeah, the mechanism matching the theme is very nice. It's a really good job by Omar Ali, I believe is his name, the designer of Rap Gods, which I haven't played. But again, I was really impressed by this game. At the end of the day, I was a little bummed that there were enough opportunities for us to mess with each other, destroy stuff. Like there's one ability that if I play this ability right now, everybody has to swap a card. I got to give you a card, then my neighbor a card, everybody swaps a card. And so I waited until it was my last card I played, right? And the event happened, and everybody has to swap a card, and because I triggered this particular event, and I didn't have any cards to give away. So Jen had to give me a card, and I didn't give her one in return. And I felt really smart that I timed it just right, but I also felt really dirty because I effectively stole a card from Jen. Now, it was her choice, and she gave me a weak, crappy card that wasn't any good, and arguably you could say I helped her because I helped thin out her deck, and now my deck is a little thicker, but still, I don't know. Actually, yeah, with the benefit of hindsight, maybe that's why I lost so bad, because all I did was I thinned her deck and made my deck thicker without taking the opportunity to give her one. Yeah, I wasn't quite as smart as I thought I was. I was kind of dumb. Go figure. Right. Anyway, though, let's see here. Yeah, but from what I've seen, there's a nice variety of card effects and all the events that pop up. It's very thematic. You can have like one of those cards that says, hey, more rubble gets dropped in. That can trigger another one. There were times when we would have 2 or 3 or 4 cards in a row as like it just felt, oh, wow, there's a huge, another building just collapsed and a whole bunch of stuff just came into the game. And when that stuff comes into the game, it's already face up. So then it becomes a feeding frenzy to try to grab all those artifacts so you can keep building your deck. I was really impressed by it. Goblin, to be fair, I guess it's a minor spoiler now because I believe that, it's not like they hid that. Once the movie was out in theaters, didn't they update commercials and trailers to say, hey, by the way, before all we told you was that, Prince Namor was a character in the movie. Now we'll tell you who he is, where he came from, what the surprise is, this, that, the other. And so I guess you're right. At this point, maybe it is fairly minor spoilers. But for me, a guy who vehemently avoids all spoilers, and which is why I go and see movies that I care about the day they're in theaters, even if I have to bike 15 miles to do it. So I guess it's a fair point. You're right. I think that is probably pretty commonly zeitgeistish. That would have been really terrible if you'd posted that like a couple days after the movie was out in theaters before Marvel just wanted to shout to the world, hey, let's just tell all the secrets and surprises so you can't go in and be surprised in the movie like I was. Anyway, so buttons. So, I think we are ready to go to step number 2. Let's make sure everything looks fine. Number 2, the Rahdo ranks. Right, there it is. Limes in Cascadia. Does anybody know the correct way to pronounce this? I know it's not limes. It's a Latin word. Let me see. Maybe I can just find it on the old, pronounce limes in Latin. Show me what you got. How do you pronounce limes in Latin? Says howtopronounce.com. What was that? Limes. Okay, I will try to remember to say limes. But we are ready to go. All right. Limes, says Goblin. Oh, all the Latin experts are coming out. Go figure. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, so that's ready to go. And actually is my other thing. So is that still... Because I'm going to do a couple of shout-outs because a few people contacted me about cool things that are happening in the board game industry. And considering how many sad things are happening in the board game industry, especially today, there will be a question about it for people who are wondering. The very sad demise of Holy Grail games. But it'd be nice to talk about some good things. Talking about India's first and only board game convention that's this weekend and this cool LA Times article. So I want to talk about those first. So it'll be me. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Rankening. Rahdo Rankening. What episode is this? This is number 4, right? I think this is my 4th episode. Let's look at that. Rankening.rahdo.com. Yes, this is episode 4. And before we get to the comparisons, limes, I just want to say a couple of cool, exciting things that are happening in the world of board games right now. And I'll talk about the LA Times article. I'll talk about the board game convention in Mumbai. And now, folks, you're ready to go. But now is when I got to get my phone out. Because it's addictive to do this. I just keep going and going, and I lose track of time, and then I end up with not enough time to actually answer the 50 billion podcast questions. So I have got now a 20-minute timer. So if you listen real close, you might hear off camera around 20 minutes in a beep, 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 and that's a reminder to me. Let me put it over here so I can reach it a bit easier. That'll be a reminder to me to start wrapping it up. Right. The Rankening. Do you like it, primary guy? I don't know why that didn't occur to me before. It's perfect. It's the Rankening. Let the Rankening continue. And considering how epic this whole project is going to be at the speed I'm going, although I know it will eventually speed up. There's no way it can't speed up. Sooner or later, it'll get to the point where, you know what, I've talked about almost all of these games. I don't have to spend a minute describing each game before I rank it. Somewhere, at some point in the future. Limes. Right? Limes. Pronunciations are so hard. I want to be respectful, but it's hard. Okay, one more sip. Alrighty. Let's see. And no flash burn. It was not in the opening scene of the movie. The opening scene of the movie is probably... Well, I don't want to say anything for people who haven't seen it, but the opening scene of the movie is amazing, and it was something very, very different. And as soon as you remember, oh, right, yes, that... one of the... Anyway, I don't want to start crying on camera. I don't want to really dwell on that because it was such an impactful scene. So instead, let's just focus on doing what we came here to do. Right? Nobody has put any big questions into the AMA, so I think I'm all fine. Righty. And, but hey, I was not paying attention. Thanks for resubscribing, Ring OJ. And Norb X. I got so wrapped up in that playthrough, I lost track of time. Thank you for keeping us going. Okay, so we are ready to go. Right, so here we go. Oh wait. Should we do the? No, I was gonna say, hey, we could do the Battle Royale, but let's do the Battle Royale in between the two segments, shall we? I'd say so. Right. So, buttons. I love how in my little impromptu playthrough, I made a horrible, terrible goof that Paula wasn't here to goof about. But at least I caught myself doing the goof that I forgot about those events. Oh, my brain is so scattershot. I shouldn't be thinking about that anymore. That's in the past, and yet that's all I'm thinking about is that dumb goof I made in front of all of you live. Oh, Siri. Oh, and I see you're remembering now, Flash. Yep. Okay. And I said, why, oh, Siri? Because the Siri card came up. My brain, so scattered. So, alrighty, let's do this to this. Let's put the reminder back up that while we're doing it, I'm not doing any back and forth with the audience. You folks, of course, can let people know when they come in that if they have questions, please start those questions with a question mark so I can be able to get to them after we're done with the segment if any questions come up. But otherwise, you know how it goes, folks. So, let's get to it, Pruitt. Where are we? There is the Rahdo Runs Through logo. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rankening. Oh yeah, folks, this is the 4th time I have sat down and started to rank all of the games on my shelves. 2 games at a time, comparing Arhyle to My City, comparing Endless Winter to Come Together, and making a tough, seriously challenging series of choices for your amusement. You get to watch me squirm as I have to sort all of my babies. And I'm looking forward to it. But before we get to that, folks, I want to do a couple of shout outs for stuff I recently found out about. First of all, if you are a fan of my show, and if you happen to be in India, in case you didn't know, this coming weekend on February 18th and 19th, 2023, MeepleCon is going to be on in Mumbai. It is India's first and only board game convention, and I just think that is so cool. I think this is the 4th year they've got running. They expect 15,000 attendees. They'll have 200 games for people to play, tournaments, workshops, all kinds of things. I gotta tell you, folks, I hope this just continues to grow because this goes on my bucket list. Someday, I want to attend MeepleCon in Mumbai. Of course, I just want to go to India in general, but I just in case, somehow, you're in that weird Venn diagram of is a fan of Rahdo Runs Through, lives near Mumbai, and didn't already know, hey, the first and only board game convention in your neck of the woods is this weekend. You don't want to miss it. You can go to meeplecon.in. There's a link for it down in the show notes to learn more. And then, another thing came to my attention. Just this week, a new article went up on the Los Angeles Times, a record of note here in America that is 13 under the radar LA spots to play tabletop games in. And I just thought this was really cool. The way they set it up, that you have a map of Los Angeles and where they all are, and you start reading, but then as you start scrolling through, it zooms into where they are. One, I just thought this is a really fun little interactive article. And 2, I just love the fact that this is existing in one of the biggest newspapers in America, that they are giving attention to board gaming. And folks, if you, like me, would like to see the board game industry grow and thrive and you'll get more breakthrough, can I suggest you go check out this article? Link for it down in the show notes. If for no other reason to let the editors of the LA Times know that we're here. We want more content. So go check it out. Plus, it's a fun article to read too. Okay, folks, that's it. I know what you've come here for. Let's the Rankening resume. Because here we are, right where we left off. When we left our heroes, I had the tough choice of choosing between Cascadia and I believe it's not Limes, it's Limes. I just looked it up right before I started filming and I've totally forgotten how to pronounce it. Limes, it's Latin, you see. I think for roads or something like that. So anyway, I got to pick one of these. Which one do I choose? I don't think I need to describe Cascadia. I'm pretty sure this is not the first time I've described Cascadia. Everybody knows Cascadia. Really awesome tile layer, entwined drafting, fantastic stuff. Spiel des Jahres winner, or was it Kenner Spiel? I don't remember. Limes you might not remember. Let me tell you a little bit about it, folks. Here's the thing. It's been so long since I played it, I didn't remember it. But then I went back. I still got it to this day. I watched my run-through and I remember, oh, right, this is the game that killed Carcassonne for me. After I played this with Jen, I got rid of my Carcassonne and all of my Carcassonne stuff. Because as far as I'm concerned, this does Carcassonne better than Carcassonne. Now, maybe not as good as Carcassonne Castle. Someday it's going to make me compare Carcassonne Castle in this. But what is it? It's a bingo-style game, kind of like Karuba, where the lead player draws a card, everybody else gets their own copy of that card. You're building a grid of cards and instead of tiles, like Carcassonne, and putting down your workers on different spaces. And the thing is, you're working on your own thing instead of a communal thing, so there's no screwing over opponents by stealing their roads from them, a la Carcassonne. And all all the different ways you can score based on the lakes you're building and the farming fields and the towers. They all have really unique and surprisingly complex rules. Like really surprisingly complex. And it's just a really great game. And sadly, forgotten to the sands of history. But hey, that's why we're here, to talk about the hot new stuff and wonderful old stuff. And now, I have delayed long enough, I must choose. Here's the deal. I am going to upset everybody by giving it to LeMaze. And that is because, as much as I love Cascadia, I love, what was it called? The boss monster game. What was it called? Oh, Overboss. I love Overboss more. Overboss does everything Cascadia does and more, and it does it better. So I'm going to give it to LeMaze because after I was just watching this video a couple of days ago, and I'm like, I got to get this game out and play it right now. It has been so long. I personally underappreciated this game. So it's LeMaze for our first rank. All right, let's move on to the next one. Harbor, which is basically Tiny Epic Le Havre, although Scott Almes did not design it, versus Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria. Okay. Okay, doke. Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria, of course, is a fantastic dice drafting game where we actually play as the, not the brave heroes who save the land from the ravaging horde of monsters that were already there when we move in. We instead are the monsters who are literally being displaced by colonizers, and we are fighting to get our land back. Make no mistake about it, I have no idea if the developers had something in mind to have parallels to the real world, but to me this has very much Star Trek socially conscious vibes, using fantasy to relate real world stories. Let's see here. I'm going to pause for a second because somebody said, hey, listen. What? Scott Almes. Did Scott Almes design Tiny Epic Harbor? You're right. They did. Okay. All right. Thank you. Whoever said that, thank you, Goblin. I was thinking of, remember they had a few games? They had Harbor, and then they had a couple of other ones. I was thinking of one of the other ones. I was not thinking of Harbor. Right. And did I say it was from game? Yeah, of course it wasn't. Yeah, it was Tiny Epic. All right, all right, okay. Thank you. Folks, if I make a mistake, use the hey listen button so that I will notice it and stop. Right, so now I have to do some editing, though. I hate editing. Okay. Well, at least I can take a chance to get another drink of water. All right, okay, so. Oh, and I need to mark that I had that break so I know how to find it, just roughly where it is, and then I can zero in with the claps. Okay, so, all right, fine. Oh, but wait a minute. Hold on a second, folks. I gotta interrupt myself. Harbor was designed by Scott Almes. All the more reason you could consider it a Tiny Epic Le Havre. But of course, it was not from Gameland Games. It was from Tasty Minstrel Games. May they rest in peace. Oh, Tasty Minstrel Games, one of my favorite publishers of all time. So, anyway, Harbor is literally, it has so much Le Havre vibes. You have a worker, you're on a waterfront town, although it is a cool little fantasy setting, and the special powers you get come from whether you're a goblin or a magician or all the various sundry things. It also has an expansion that added a lot more stuff. It also has an amazing solo mode. But what really makes Harbor special is what some people hated about it. It has one of the tightest, most interactive market systems I've ever seen in a game, because the value of the goods that you can buy and sell and convert into points is constantly shifting. And so I remember some people complaining at the time, well, you can't make any plans. I'm like, no, that's wrong. This game is all about planning, because you know exactly how the market will behave if you can anticipate what your opponents are going to do. And if you can see when an opponent is going to make that iron suddenly be worth nothing, then you know you better sell it now before they do. But you also know that, if iron gets sold by somebody, that's going to make lumber super valuable, so I better start collecting lumber now before that happens. Anybody who tells you Harbor is a very reactive, tactical game, I will crush them in this game, because this game is all about anticipating not where the market is now on your turn, but where it's going to be in 2 rounds from now, on your 3rd turn from now. And it's brilliant. It packs so much gameplay. But back to Shadow Kings of Valeria, I love whether is there or not, I love the real world parallels that you actually get to play the colonized fighting, shaking off the colonizers. You get to see a story from a non-traditional narrative. And then on top of that, was it designer Stan Kardonsky? I think it was. And it's just an absolutely brilliant entwined dice drafting game to boot. So this is actually really, really hard. Okay. Wow. Now, interestingly, Shadow Kings of Valeria is getting an expansion, but I don't have it, so I can't count that. The Harbor does have an expansion that added so much. And that expansion does bump it up, but honestly, if you're going to, hey, what do you want to play for the rest of your life? You only have one game? I'm going to go with Shadow Kings of Valeria. I can't recommend it enough. But folks, do not be misled. Don't buy into the anti-hype. There is more to Harbor than you may have heard. Okay, next up, Shakespeare versus Codenames. All right, do I need to say anything about Codenames? I will say one thing about Codenames, which most people think of as the ultimate party game for teams, for people who are looking for something a little bit more crunchy. Such a cool, clever game. Such a monster hit. I bought Vlado Shivada is Porsche in his mansion. That's not true, but I'm sure Czech Games Edition, I can't even imagine how much money they've made off of that thing, considering how breakthrough pop culture it is. So I'm not going to describe that, other than to say, here's what people don't realize. Codenames is a fantastic cooperative 2-player game. And honestly, I love it more than Codenames Duet to play 2-player. And Jen and I played a lot of it, and I think it's just absolutely fantastic. So that's all I need to say about Codenames. Shakespeare, what was that one? That was, you're in the time of Shakespeare putting on a play, and that was the worker placement game, right? Where at the beginning of every turn, everybody had to pick how many of their workers they're sending out. So that it was like a precursor to Dominion. That this Shakespeare was all about stronger workforces that go slower, so you don't get first dibs on the incredibly limited options that are available to you every round. Game is incredibly tight, tough card drafting and tableau building as you're trying to get the right costumes with the right actors and the right writing to put on the best play to score the most points. But every round with this simultaneous action selection of, right, what is my workforce going to be this turn and how will that change things? And it is stunningly gorgeous. I do not remember who the artist was, but man, whoever they were, I want to see them on more games, because it is just, it is up there with, who's everybody's favorite? Vincent Dutray art, the art that you will find in Shakespeare. So, folks, I could drag it out for a while, but I got to pick one of them. And as much as I love Codenames, I've played it plenty in team. I actually once did a live stream. I teamed up with Shay Parker, one of the contributors on my channel, to go up against another one of the contributors on my channel, Grant Lyons, and a stand-up comedian professional friend of his. And that was a great time. So I have a lot of fond memories from Codenames. But Shakespeare, I gotta do it for the Bard. It is such a really cool simultaneous action selection, or worker placement building, I guess you'd say, is so good. One of my favorites. So I'm going to give it to Shakespeare. Okay, then we've got Tessin versus Coimbra. Interesting. Okay, Coimbra, very, very cool. Another dice worker placement game with some amazing components. I especially love the fact that after you've rolled your dice, you put them in these cute little dice tray, little mini dice caddies that look like little parapets on a tower. And it's just fun. And then you send them out there, and there's this whole thing about where you send them out, the order things will resolve, and it's really, really good. And it's just a fun, solid, crunchy Euro with great art. Was it Kwanchai Moria who did the art? Maybe not. I don't remember. But a great look, great dice worker placement with a twist. But I had one problem with it that bugs me to this day. Heck, I was literally just talking about Coimbra when I filmed my run-through for Rise last week. Coimbra is one of my poster children for, this game could be 10 times more thematic than it is if the designers would have just used names. Because all these people we're recruiting, who are they? Tell me who they are, so I can make a connection of, that's the princess, or the prince, or the chancellor, or the mayor, or whatever. And so I feel, as opposed to just, I'm recruiting random people, and things are just happening, and it just kind of divorces itself from theme in a way that always bugged me. So that's the up and the down from Coimbra. Obviously, I kept it. I kept all these games, so they're all thumbs up. But what about Tessin? Probably one fewer people have heard of. This is interesting in that this is a 2-player head-to-head dueling game, which people wouldn't expect from me at all. I mean, I've said many times, I can't stand dueling wizards, i.e. anything that takes its inspiration, if you go back far enough, to Magic the Gathering. Even though I used to play a ton of Magic the Gathering with Jen back in the year. We used to play tournament level back in Seattle, back in the day. Back in, Fallen Empires, 3rd edition, back in the 90s. But anyway, so why would I possibly like Tessin if it's about me and Jen sitting across from each other, trying to conk each other over the head and beat each other? Real time, baby. It is a real-time card game that actually, I would say, if anything, maybe owes more to battle lines, because we're real-time playing cards to different spots, trying to pay attention to what our opponent is doing. And aren't we creating like a discard pile? And ultimately, at the end of the game, we compare our discard pile to the other player's discard pile. It's been years. I have not played it since Malta, but I remember loving this game. And a game that at the end of the day is all about me reaching across the table and trying to beat Jen over and over again directly, ruin her plans, and yet we both love it. That means that makes it something really special, so I'm going to give it to Tessin. Boop. Okay, Blackout Hong Kong. One of these can't go by without throwing more Alexander Pfister games in my face and make me squirm, make me sweat, versus Clank Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated. Now, here's the thing, folks. Clank is not going to appear on my list at any time, because after Jen and I finished Clank Legacy and we had our cool, unique to us version of the world that is 100% replayable and compatible with most Clank expansions and whatnot, I got rid of my original Clank and kept Clank Legacy expansions because it has so much more personal meaning to me than just the same old map that everybody else has. And Clank, of course, is a phenomenal deck builder. It always has been, fusing deck building with racing effectively. And so my version of Clank is Legacy Acquisitions Incorporated. But how does it compare to Blackout Hong Kong? Nothing compares to Blackout Hong Kong. One of my absolute favorite Alexander Pfister games. Alexander Pfister, one of my absolute favorite designers, my number 2 designer, in fact. And this is one of his best. It is a competitive game, which is kind of weird. It feels like it should be a co-op, but it is a competitive game where we are all going out into the dark streets of Hong Kong, trying to save people in the middle of an epic multi-day blackout. We are not heroes. We are not, civil servants. We are just regular people who realize our fellow man is in danger and needs our help, and we just go out into the night, into the darkness, and do whatever we can to help as many people as possible. And I love the story that is told playing this game. I mean, it is a celebration of true heroism and the best of humanity when in times of adversity, we come together. It's so easy these days to forget that 9 times out of 10, that's what happens in the face of turmoil and destruction. It's easy to be bitter and jaded and think, oh yeah, when the zombies come, everything falls apart and we all turn on each other. We don't. We turn towards each other. And that's what Blackout Hong Kong does. And then on top of that, it has an amazing, kind of a multi-bucket deck building or engine building kind of thing that was borrowed from, what would you call it? What was the original that it was? Mombasa. And so it took the card multi-bucket system of Mombasa, or now Sky Mines, brought it into a theme I love. And so, yeah, comparing these two, Clank Legacy versus Blackout Hong Kong, of course, Blackout Hong Kong. Okay, then we've got Fjords versus Alchemidius. 2 smaller titles. I bet you anything. Is there anybody watching this? Let me know down in the comments. And by the way, folks, let me know in the comments whenever you disagree, whenever you think I got it right or wrong, because I love hearing about it. And I want to know, does anybody know Alchemidius? Because if not, that's a real shame. This is a wonderful real-time game where we are alchemists, where we are scientists. And basically what happens is there's a whole bunch of really for all intents and purposes, kind of algebra cards, colored cards, equal cards, greater than, less than cards. They all get played out, kind of randomly jumbled, to create this potential formula we're trying to solve. All the cards come out, and then players start real-time looking at it, thinking, how can I resolve this? How do I have to move these cards around, shuffle them, replace them with other cards based on what's available to solve the equation and make the formula that we are here to do? And the first player who thinks they can figure it out says, I got it! And then everybody stops, and then that person does their proof. Again, this game makes us feel like competing scientists, and I love it. And if we got it wrong, then, oh, well, we lose some points, everybody else gains some points. So you don't just want to go off. I mean, you really need to make sure you've got it right. And these can be simple to solve. These can be really complex to solve. And it's so cool, and nobody knows about it. And it's Alchemedius versus Fjords. Now, Fjords, probably more people have heard of because it got a very nice, lavish, deluxeification 2.0 a couple of years ago, I guess. Amy and Maggie covered it on the channel. But I've only ever played the original. I love it. This is interesting, too, because it's a two-player. Originally, it was two-player. Now you can play in teams up to 4, I think. But it was about, hey, we're just laying tiles. The first half of the game is we're laying tiles, kind of expanding the world, kind of Carcassonne, although they're hex tiles instead of square tiles. And then the second half of the game is we are putting little buildings on tiles based on the world that we have collaboratively built to try to claim bigger sections and cut off our opponent. Jen and I have a lot of fond memories playing this thing. And again, as I said earlier in this very episode, it is tough for a game to stick around if in spite of the fact that it is a game where Jen and I go head to head and try to cut each other off. And so that speaks high praise to it. But just talking about Alchemedius makes me want to play it again. So it's Alchemedius beats Fjords. Okay. Crown of Amara versus Motainai. Alrighty. So, Motainai, actually, probably people don't know about either of these, do they? Let's see. Motainai, of course, is, well, it's really weird. There is this very famous card game called Glory to Rome. And it's been out of print forever because it's all tied up in all kinds of legal ownership rights issues, and everybody is even though every publisher has knocked on the door saying, hey, can we get the rights to this? We would love to republish this game because it's one of the most well-loved and highly revered, regarded card games of all time. It will eventually start showing up as well. And the rights owners keep saying, no, I will take it to my grave. Wait, whatever it is, 85 years, and when it's public domain, then you can have it, I guess. I don't know. I'm not in these conversations. That's the impression I get. So, the designer of Glory to Rome, over the years, has revisited this design in various ways, and one of them was Motainai. And I think Motainai probably comes closest to capturing the spirit of Glory to Rome, although it's set in a completely different setting and all of that. It's simplified, it's streamlined down, it's just a deck of like 60 cards instead of like the really big thick deck you got. But at its heart, it is all about the really tough choices you have to make when you are, taking a card and tucking it under the left side of your player board so that it represents, I forget what. Say if you tuck it on the left, it represents a customer. If you tuck it on the right, it represents things you have for sale. If you tuck it underneath, it represents the resources you have to make the things to sell to the customers. Once you sell them, they go to the top and it represents points. And so every card is multi-use. And that is the special sauce of Motainai, which was the special sauce of, Glory to Rome. And that has to go up against Crowns of Amara. And here's the deal, folks. I am so embarrassed to say it has been several years since I played Crown of Amara. All I need to do, I just need to look at it. If I could reach it right now, I would grab it on the shelves. I just need like one sentence to remember what it is, because there's like 400 games on this shelf, folks. I play literally hundreds of games over the last 10 years. I have done a run-through of, I think, almost 2,000 games over the last 10 years. So sometimes things get a little iffy, and I do not remember the particulars of Crown of Amara. So here's the deal, folks. If you've made it this far, hopefully you're having a good time, which means you're going to want to come back, because we've got a cliffhanger, folks. Before we come back, I will have gone back and checked out Crown of Amara so I can remember what it is, so I can decide what is better, Crown of Amara or Motainai. In the meantime, folks, if you have an opinion, please weigh in. Let me know in the comments, because this is where we will start the next episode of Crowd Sorcery. But for now, let's go on ahead and save our progress. It is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Of course, by the time you're seeing this, it's Valentine's Day is in the past, but you might still be seeing it in the month of February. So instead, let me say Happy Black History Month, because, folks, Black history is American history, and I hope everybody is taking the opportunity to celebrate, Black creators that they love. Me, I'm a huge fan of Our Family Plays Games. Huge shout out to them. There's a link for them down in the show notes as well. Show Mick and Starla some love. Go give them a subscribe, watch their videos, and I think you'll fall in love with them as much as I have done. But folks, that is it. Episode 4 of The Rankening is done. A bit shorter than the previous episodes, but what I'm thinking is I'm going to be doing shorter episodes more often in the future. I was doing like 40 minutes a month. I'm thinking, hey, maybe 20-minute episodes every couple of weeks. Who knows? But if you don't want to miss future episodes, then you're going to want to hit that right there and subscribe. And while you're waiting, here's plenty of other things for you to check out. So, folks, that is it. I am done. And I had a timer to make sure I wasn't going to go over. And as you can see, we have got, oh man, you just saw, all right, there we go. We've got 13 seconds left to go. Although I think by now the YouTube timer has already ended this, and we are done. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye. Are you going to beep at me? There it is. There we go. Show's over, folks. Boom. Okay, let me mark that. Clapper. Hey, everybody. Hey, Board Game TV. Sorry, I was in the middle of a show. Thank you for the raid. Hopefully, everybody was enjoying Lincoln. I'm sure he was painting, as always. Someday I want to learn to paint, but not today. Because today, folks, you missed my deep dive into damage control. But hey, you can watch the show later. You could actually go back. If you're watching live right now, you don't have to keep watching live. I don't know if most people know this on Twitch. You can, if you came in late and you're like, oh, I want to catch up, you can go to my videos tab down below, and you will find there is actually, let's do this right now. Let's confirm I'm not a big fat liar. Let's come back over to the browser view. Alrighty. Did I update? Save. All right, so that is saved. Yes, my progress has been saved. Fantastic. If you go to twitch.tv, not Ruel Gaviola, but Rahdo runs through. Let's run through Twitch, shall we? Here I am, live, loading up the various thing I was just doing. But if you go to, where is it when the screen is squished like this? I do not know where it is when the screen is squished like this. Is it below all these things? How do I get to, if I click that? Oh, there we go. Yes. So, if you're watching, hey, you can watch now with all the viewers. Yay. And, oh, it just disappeared. All right, well, click on me and then click on videos. And you'll notice this is the video we're watching right now, folks, but it started an hour ago. And so if you don't care about what I'm about to do, which is answer 1.5 billion questions, Q&A section that came in for the podcast, you could go back and start watching this right now by just clicking this video, and it'll jump back, doesn't it? Yes, it picks up pretty much right where we are, but you can jump around wherever you want and see what's going on. And so the stuff you missed. So you could like play this at double speed and catch up or whatever. Sorry, that's neither here nor there, but I figure not everybody knows that there is kind of a way you can hack Twitch and rewind. What did he just say? Go to videos, go to the tab, and you can rewind. And what? Oh, he did say that. Let's get him or whatever, that kind of stuff. So anyway. But anyway, thank you for the raid, Lincoln and crew. I am still hoping someday to get down to Los Angeles and sit down and play some games with you all on the show because I love the show. But, folks, we have one more segment. I've done the massive, basically, it was less of an unboxing and more of a run-through of how damage control plays. I've just finished episode 4 of The Rankening, and now we are going to continue with finish out the show with the Rahdo Talks Through podcast. So here it is. That's wrong. Here it is. Okay. And I just need you to be I need to have a Google page ready, right? If I need to look up anything, so I've got this ready to do searches. All right. So right now, I am just preparing to make sure I am ready to do the next segment where I'm going to answer 50 billion questions that have been submitted by viewers and listeners like you. Look at all of them. So we're going to be here for a while. And if you folks have any questions, by all means, ask them in the chat, but start your question with a question mark. For instance, Mom Gator did it, so I'm going to answer her question right now. Hello. Congratulations, Mom. You're here live. MG. It's so weird to call you Mom. MG, you're here live. Will you not be doing live shows anymore, or did you misunderstand? That is interesting for you to ask that. Here's the deal, folks. Jen and I are about to hit the road. We are going to be doing this epic 2-month-long RV trip. And we will not have ready, sustainable access to internet. And so I am right now, we did a test a couple of weeks ago where we had an R&R show, but it wasn't Rahdo and Ruel. It was Ruel and Room and Board, i.e. Chris George. So we did a test to see if the audience enjoyed their chemistry. It seemed every much enjoyed their chemistry. And it was also a test to see what happens if I pre-record my segments, find a Wi-Fi in some cafe somewhere, upload them so that Ruel has them, so that we can do top 15s in the R&R show instead of the top 10. You get my 5, Ruel's 5, and Chris's 5. And so, while Jen and I are going to be on the road, that is the working assumption to make up for the fact that I will not have reliable access to be able to do live streaming. But you'll still be able to have Twitch Tuesdays with me still showing up, letting you know what I think, and interacting. And while I won't be able to hear their responses, they'll be able to hear my response. If you want to see an example of this, go check out on YouTube the top 15 disappointing games, where each of us listed our 5 most disappointing games of 2023. I think it worked really well. And so, while Jen and I are on the road, that's kind of the working plan, although we are still trying to figure out specifics right now. So watch this space, and we will have more information soon. Okay, thank you. And so, folks, see, if you start your question with a question mark, I will spot it and I will answer it. But, and thank you also in closing, MG, that I expect Jen and I will be, why can't I put this on screen? What is happening? Oh, because I'm in that. Come back over to Talking Head. That Jen and I will be, oh my gosh, it's broken. I can't put that on screen. All right, but I can put it over here, right? There we go. That Jen and I will be very happy on the road. We are both incredibly excited, incredibly nervous. Jen is. I grew up living on a boat. I grew up a vagabond lifestyle. My whole family living on a 42-foot steel hull sailboat. So for me, life on the road is, kind of getting back to basics. But for Jen, completely disconnecting from everything, we'll see how it goes. But it's very exciting. Can't wait to see what happens. But we still want to keep you people happy and coming back for more. So we'll see how that works in the future. And again, the first test of it, the top 10, the top 15 disappointing games of 2023 was really great. We're talking about doing another test, although it might not be until I'm on the road, to do, what was it? Because this is like a really common one people have been asking for a long time. Games that replaced other games. Hey, here's a classic we love, but here's the one we love even more. So that might be coming in the future. But again, Ruel and I have to figure out all the particulars and the timing and all of that. So, phew. Okay. Right. So, let's bring the browser back up. Right, and, so where we have that. So we're ready to search for stuff if I need to look things up. And here we have gaming questions. So, folks, I'm not recording the beginning part of the podcast, so I'm just going to jump in like we're in the middle of a podcast. I did my intro, talked about stuff and whatnot, and then I said, hey, folks, we'll be right back. There is a commercial interlude because there are ads on the Rahdo Talks Through Podcast, unless you're a backer on Patreon, folks. Did you know if you back on Patreon, you get a completely ad-free version of all my podcast content, plus additional bonus content? Sorry, there I am self-promoting, but hey, that's what you got to do to make it in this world today. So, anyway, though, we're going to come back, and I'm going to say, right, folks, let's get going with these questions, starting with this one from Cameron, etc., etc. Oh, but before we do that, folks, we need to fight to the death, because it's not a Twitch Tuesday without a Battle Royale. So let's get to it. Alrighty. Where are they? Here they come. All right. Looks like me and Poppy Docs are going to be throwing down very quickly. No, we turn our back and I go take out April and Zen for one. And then I keep chasing Zen for one. And we tag team against Mr. Boom. Then I throw down with Retsum. And then we're two ships passing in the night before Zakoon Games and I face off. And boy, folks, I did a lot of damage all over the place and took hardly any damage myself. I'm feeling pretty good. And now, AG Fox, you just keep on running, pal. Billy, Pratt, Goblin, and Strauss try to take me down combined, and I just take, 2 of the 3 are gone. You can't come to the Rahdo like that. And now, I am going to finish what I started with the Zakoon Games. You just turn around, buddy, bring that bowler hat and turkey leg this way, and my balloon of death will destroy you. No, it won't. I'm down. All right. Well done, Zakoon. And Billy, Pratt, and Zakoon. If Billy grabs that health pack, which he did, an old practice hand. Billy's been here from the beginning. And Zakoon, I think you need to run for the hills. But it's too little too late. You took out the Rahdo, but you did not take out the Pratt. And that was the Battle Royale. Congratulations, Billy Pratt. Although, again, you've been at this so long, I'm sure you've got 50,000 bajillion customization coins. But always a good fun time. And now we are ready to go with the questions. Right. Mayor of Canada. I love that you recognize that music as the song from the Cable Guy. But there is an earlier origin to that. I love that then Goblin says it's from Star Trek 2. No, it's not. It's from the original Star Trek. It's the Alexander Courage awesome fight music. I do not think at any time during Star Trek 2 did Alexander Courage's music make it in. I'm sure maybe there's a little bit of homage, a few leitmotifs here and there. But anyway, right. So here we go. Got you queued up. Got the words queued up. Gonna put back on the thingy, reminding folks if people show up demanding my attention, please explain to them that they can read that up there because I'm actually filming a show now and you're just in the audience. And and of course, as always, be sure to throw a hey listen at me if you notice I made a mistake somewhere along the way and I gotta correct something. That's right. I got to remember. I got to edit that part of the other thing because I made that Scott Alms mistake. What was it I was thinking of? It's not harbor, but it was something else. Was it village? No. Oh, I can't think of it at all now. That's driving me nuts. But that's a story for another day. It was farming. It was like a tiny epic Agricola, where if harbor was a tiny epic Le Havre. Harvest. Thank you, Goblin. Well done. Yes. I was thinking of harvest when harbor came up. An understandable mistake, I would like to think. And so that's why I started. I'm glad you folks hit me with the hey listen so that I didn't go too deep down the road and make a fool of myself. Alrighty, anyway though. So we got the questions, we got the audience, and I have got about 40 minutes to get through all these. Hopefully it'll be about a half an hour. And then we can do a little bit more stuff. And then we'll see who's online and we will raid and have a good old time. But okay, everybody, it's time for questions, and I asked for questions, and you folks delivered. There's a lot of game stuff, and oh my gosh, there are so many personal questions. I think that's probably going to end up going for, this is going to be one of the longer episodes on record. But folks, don't let that stop you. You know what to do. The email address, questions@rahdo.com. But let's get to it. Let's start out today with Cameron, who, let's see. Oh, I remember this. Cameron actually wrote a very long email. Talking about listening to the podcast and, time zone issues and stuff like that. And it was very, very nice. And if you're watching this rather than listening to it, you can see that. He was very taken with, in the last episode when I was talking about, the concept of digital rule books and how they could be a huge boon for the industry to help people overcome their initial leeriness. But anyway, the real question is, I'm a Patreon backer, and I access the podcast through Patreon. which thank you very much. That means you get to watch it ad-free. You don't have to hear the little interstitials, and you help keep Rahdo running and me and all the contributors going. So thank you very much for supporting the show, Cameron. But Cameron points out, I also have Amazon Prime, and I could use that to subscribe to Rahdo Runs Through on Twitch. Yes, you can. For folks who don't know, if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, one of the reasons we do a Twitch Tuesday show every week, we live stream the show, is because people can, for free, use their Amazon Prime account to subscribe. You get all kinds of bonuses. You get little avatars. You get discounts on Rahdo merch, which I'm not wearing today. Today I'm wearing Our Family Plays Games merch, which is an excellent channel. I recommend everybody check out. And you get all kinds of things. And it's free if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber. And so Cameron's wondering, should I do that? And the question, would Amazon subscription, Amazon via Twitch subscription, provide access to the Patreon podcast? The obvious answer is do both subscriptions, right? Well, to answer that question, no. I'm very limited with what I can do with if people subscribe on Patreon. And I listed, if you go to I'm very limited to what I can do for people who subscribe via Twitch. If you go to twitch.com/Rahdo or twitch.rahdo.com, if you scroll down below the video, you'll see there's like a list of all the benefits I can give you if you do that totally free to use subscription that basically puts $2.50 in my pocket every month. And thank you very much for everybody who does. And one of them is the cool little avatars and whatnot. So unfortunately, I do not have a really good way of making that a way to get access to some of the Patreon stuff. Now, the reason you ask this is because, continues Cameron, I mainly want to access the podcast, that's my main thing, but the ability to participate in the Twitch Battle Royales would be great. Unsure if I can have my cake and eat it too. Yes, you can. Yes, we can. Because here's the deal. Cameron, you must have missed it. About a year ago, I probably need to do an update for this. I told everybody on Patreon, by the way, everybody, if you're already supporting me on Patreon and you like watching the Twitch live show and you would like an avatar, just direct message me. You, by backing me at any level, even $1 a month on Patreon, all you have to do is direct message me and I will get you a little avatar to run around. Some of the people running around on the screen right now, if you're watching live on February 14th, Valentine's Day, are not actually subscribed here on Twitch, but they're subscribed on Patreon. They contacted me and I put them on a list that automatically gives them. So yes, you can have your cake and eat it too. Now, all that being said, again, if you already have Amazon Prime, it's completely free to subscribe. So go ahead and do it anyway. But you don't need to. You can get everything that's available through Twitch subscription is available through Patreon subscriptions as well. Okay. Next up, Cody says, I just returned from a 7-month backtracking trip through Europe and the Middle East. I listened to the podcast along the journey. Thank you for that. I'm glad I was able to keep you going, to keep you running, Cody. Most people might bring home a postcard or a refrigerator magnet, but I brought home a person. I befriended a Russian refugee, and to make a long story short, he's living with me for the foreseeable future. And Cody, I just want to doff my cap to you. That is amazing. That is such an incredible act of generosity and kindness on your part. You're demonstrating the best of what humanity has to offer, and I just say you're a better man than me. That is amazing. But anyway, Cody continues. The Russian refugee is 21, speaks very little English, but he's learning. I'm introducing him to all things American, and I want to get him into the hobby. We played Azul. He loved it, maybe because he won, and Mandala, which he did not like, maybe because I won. But the question is, Cody asks, what medium-weight language-neutral games would you suggest for someone who does not speak English? I'm looking for crunchy games with little or no text and limited communication required between players. Cody, you're in luck. There is a very easy way to get this answer. Let's go over to the browser. And from the browser, let's go to BoardGameGeek.com, the greatest website in the world. I guess I should say the second greatest website in the world because YouTube is the greatest because that's a big part of what butters my bread. But anyway, I love, Board Game Geek is my number 2, let's say. But anyway, there's a search. But if you click on search, you'll notice advanced search comes up. If you go to advanced search, you then find yourself, oh shoot, no, there's no way to do this with advanced search, is there? I was about to say, you could do an advanced search and specify language independent. But you can't. Oh my gosh. I recommend people go to Board Game Geek and do advanced search, and there's so many things you can do. There are so many ways that you can sort your search by board game mechanisms and how many people can play and what year it came out and whether Rahdo owns it. You can say owned by user and type my name, and you'll get responses only of things that I personally own, if that's a meaning to you. When is it released? You can do all these things, but there isn't anything. There isn't any way to sort. That's really disappointing. Now I understand why. You're in a really interesting situation that's not going to be that common. So I'm going to have to go to my fallback, Cody. I'm going to go to faq.rahdo.com and take us over to entry number 5. Frequently asked question number 5 is, I love insert thing. What should I buy? And you can see in this case, I would love to get more crunchy mid-weight Euros that have no language requirements. And if you come here, that takes you to a link that takes you to the recommendations forum on Board Game Geek. It takes literally less than 1 minute to create an account for Board Game Geek. And then you can come here, you can post asking that exact same question, and you will get answers 10,000 times better than I could ever give you. That is your true source, since you can't do an advanced search and get language independent. That's crazy. But in the meantime, let's now go to ranked.rahdo.com, and I'm just going to look at my games and just come up with a couple, because I don't want you to go away completely empty-handed. I've taught you how to fish, but now I will give you a fish or two. So, right. So, and what was it you were saying? It was crunchy games with little or no text to read, limited communication. Okay. And we know he liked Azul, and he did not like Mandala. That's an extra twist. I would really be interested in that. Why didn't he like Mandala? That would really help narrow things down. But since he liked Azul, I want to say Castles of Burgundy. Castles of Burgundy is there's no text on anything, and you can go on Board Game Geek, and I bet anything you can download Russian player aids, so that, in the same way you'll be playing with an English player aid that reminds you of what all the tiles do, you could download and print out a Russian one for him. That's going to be a thing you can do with a lot of games. A game as popular as Castles of Burgundy, certainly. But I don't know if he's going to like that, because all I know is he likes Azul. So let's try to, stay in that wheelhouse. Hey, another thing you can do, you could go to Azul on Board Game Geek, because Board Game Geek does this very, very cool feature where if you scroll down to any game, it will make recommendations. Oh, did you like Azul? Maybe you'll like King Domino. Maybe you'll like Patchwork. Maybe you'll like Jaipur. Maybe you'll like Splendor. Maybe you'll like Welcome to the Neighborhood. Maybe you'll like The Crew. Maybe you'll like Santorini. Maybe you'll like Targi. Maybe you'll like, and these are all fantastic suggestions. And in fact, maybe you'll like Castles and Burgundy. So maybe I wasn't too far off there. Now I'm going to look at this. And I would love to say, I would totally recommend Targi, but Targi does have a bit of text. So here, you could look at these and you could say, oh, I never really considered Splendor. And then if you go look at Splendor, Splendor will tell you the language dependence. It's somewhere here. Where is that? Is it under stats? Somewhere on this page, there is the word language dependency. Language. Yeah, language dependency. No necessary in-game text. See, I thought for sure there was a way you could search on that. And I was just going to search I was going to do an advanced search based on stuff I own that has no language, no text in-game, but I couldn't do that. But Splendor's not a bad idea, quite frankly. That is a good suggestion from Board Game Geek. Jaipur, I love. Barren Park. I think, if I recall correctly, there is actually, one of the parks you can choose is Russian, if I recall correctly. I might be wrong about that. I remember one is Chinese. They're all over the world. So, yeah. I honestly, this is a great selection. And I could almost recommend any of these things as nice first steps. I probably wouldn't go with The Crew because you don't know if he likes co-op or not. That's a big question. A lot of people just dismiss co-op out of that. Wingspan, of course, is impossible. There's way too much text there. But Barren Park is text-free, isn't it? Let's look at that. Scroll down, and, right, I don't remember where it is here, but language, LAN, GUI language, no necessary in-game text. So, okay. I have to admit, Cody, this is always really hard for me to do, in all honesty. Just like off the top of my head, come up with games that, because my brain just doesn't work that way. But hopefully, those were a few interesting suggestions. And more importantly, again, teaching you how to fish, you know how to go out and find some yourself. Okay, and good luck. You're amazing, Cody. We all salute you. Anyway, next up, Dieter. Oh, Dieter. Dieter is a new listener to the podcast, and he says, oh, you want questions? I'll give you questions. Prepare for the Dietering. Here we go. Dieter has, I have 10 more dilemmas. Which would you choose? Pick one. Alrighty, here we go, folks. Are you ready? Dilemma number one. The playthroughs of John Gets Games, Slicker Drips, or Gaming Rules. Oh my gosh, you are a monster, Dieter. I know all these people in real life. At the very least, I consider them colleagues, if not friends, out and out friends, and you're making me choose between my board game media buddy friends. And you are saying, for the rest of my life, I am not allowed to watch run-throughs. That is hard. All three of them do great, great, great jobs. Now, the obvious answer should be Slicker Drips, because Tom Heath of Slicker... Folks, if you like my run-throughs, why have you not subscribed to Slicker Drips? Tom started out contacting me saying, I really love your video style. Would you mind if I copy it? And I said, no, I love my video style too. I wish more people would do it. And Tom gives a really great run-through. And he tends to love the kind of games I love. So he tends to cover those. And he tends to focus on things from a two-player perspective, because he mostly plays with his... Are they married? Or are they just partners? I don't think they're married. Rach. And he always has a cat on screen instead of dogs. And John, I love John's presentation too. And he does really interesting stuff. Often, John will focus on a higher player count. And I find myself saying, get back to me. So I'm going to dismiss John because of his focus on higher player counts in his run-throughs. The same thing could be said that's true for... Gaming Rules. Paul Grogan, the great Paul Grogan. You occasionally see me watching a Gaming Rules shirt on the show because I love him so much. And I love that man. And he does he does so much stuff. He does great rules run-throughs, hence the name of his channel. He does great playthroughs. But, like John, more often than not, he is doing run-throughs with multiple players. So, that is how I make my decision. It's Tom Heath, Slicker Drips, Ride or Die, because Tom is focusing on the two-player. And, all three of these guys cover games I want to see. The only reason I might go for Paul Grogan, Gaming Rules, is because these days I find he's often getting his hands on games sooner than I do. And that's another thing that's a big, huge contributor. I cover most games I want to play. There are very few that slip between the cracks. But if there's a channel that covered it before me, I'm always, yes, I can watch this video. It will help me learn the game myself. And so Paul is often ahead of the curve. But you know what? Tom is too, because they're both in Europe. So they get their hands on Euro stuff faster. So I'm going to go Tom Heath is the winner in that death match. You're a monster, Dieter. Dieter, question number 2. The designs of Simone Luciani, Vito Lasarda, and Martin Wallace. Honestly, that's not going to be very hard. It's Simone Luciani. Vito Lasarda, I love. Some of my favorite games, but, he tends to skew heavier, crunchier, richer. And more often than not, Simone Luciani's games just fit that super sweet spot that is exactly... I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, many years ago, I did my top 10 board game designers. And then I teamed up with Jeremy Howard of Man vs. Meeple, and we did a crossover, and I did not replace my list. I just updated my list and came up with some more, and Simone Luciani made my short list. So Simone Luciani is in my top 20 designers of all time. And so, yeah, it's got to be that way 7 days to Sunday. Okay, question number 3. Light, i.e. a weight of 2, or less I assume, on Board Game Geek, or heavy, a weight of 4. Wow, Dieter, you are a fan, aren't you? Because I would like 2.5 to 3.5, please, which, by the way, is where Simone Luciani lives. Jeez. So you're saying all I can play for the rest of my game is either lightweight, fluffy games or brain-burny, destroying games. I tend to stay away from both of these. Wow. Oh my gosh, that is incredibly hard. I'm trying to imagine the rest of my life. I think I'm going to go with heavy games because at the end of the day, the more you play a heavy game, the more it's not heavy to you. The number of people I have seen over the years saying, "What are you talking about? Gallerist is a walk in the park. That's a game for babies," or whatever. It's because they played it a lot. So I think with enough repetition, a heavy game can get back into that sweet spot for us, that kind of medium weight. Man, what am I doing here? Okay. I'm gonna spot check this. I'm gonna go back. I tried earlier with the advanced search, it didn't work, but now it's gonna work because I'm gonna say owned by Rahdo. Let's take expansions out, and I am gonna say here's the weight range. 0 to 2. What does that give me that I own? Okay. Oh, wow. That gives me more than I thought. That gives me Sagrada. That gives me Cascadia. That gives me Biblios. That gives me Barron Park. That gives me my city. But yeah, these are definitely on the low end. CV. Oh, I love Tiny Epic Defenders. Mandala. That's a lie. Mandala. People often don't understand. You have to take the Board Game Geek rank. Mandala is a simple... People often mistake depth for complexity. Mandala is a very deep game that is incredibly simple, and it deserves to be higher than a 2. So that's interesting. If that happens a lot, Favor of the Pharaoh, Rolling Realms. Yeah, there's a lot of games I really, I've got 2 pages of games that fit under this. Now, let's reverse it. Let's go the other way. 4 to 5, right? So nothing below a 4. Submit. And then I get like half a page. Spirit Island, Anachrony, pretty much everything from Vita Lasarda, the Gallerist, Kanban, Vinos, Madeira, Weather Machine, CO2, Agra, Tawantinsuyu. Tawantinsuyu? See, again, that's people misunderstanding. They think Tawantinsuyu is complex, and therefore they give it a high weight. And, that's fair. Everybody has to rank this their own way. But to me, depth is where weight comes from. Complexity is not. So I'm going to call an audible. I am glad I double-checked. Because, if you're going by Board Game Geek, because a lot of people fundamentally misunderstand the difference between depth and complexity, I'm going to go for 2.0s and less. You really wanted to put the screw to me, you probably made it a 1.5 to 4. And that would have been tougher, and I probably would have gone with the 4s then. But that was fun. I like that question a lot, Dieter. Keep it going. What have we got next? Okay, number 4. Who would I like to join the Rahdo Club? Jeremy Howard of Man vs. Meeple, Z Garcia of the Dice Tower, or Jason Perez of the One Stop Co-op Shop and Shelf Stories, his own channel. Wow. And also, Jeremy Howard has his own John Belaya. John Belaya plays games. Although in both cases, they're mostly associated with Man vs. Meeple and One Stop Co-op Shop. See, again... You are making me have to pick between board game buddies. Although, to be fair, Z Garcia is just an acquaintance. I like Z. I have played games with Z. I have very briefly at conventions hung out with Z. And he is just as sharp and clever and witty and just... I mean, he could be a stand-up comic, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned. And he's a good game player. And I like him a lot, but we've just always been, I don't feel like I've got any connection with him. So, it's easier for me to say no. And Jason Perez and Jeremy Howard, I love both of those men. You're making me choose all the people I love in board game media. Now, here's the thing. Just between you and me and the rest of the people watching or listening to this, I think, asked, probably well over 2 years ago now, Jeremy Howard to join the channel. He was after Shay came on and he did so great, Jeremy was my number 2. I wanted him on, and I reached out to him and said, hey, I know you're really tight with MVM, but what's your situation there? Are you a contractor with him? Are you a freelancer? Can you work for 2 channels at once? And Jeremy said, hey, look, loyalty is everything that I am all about, and I am loyal to MVM. Thanks for, I don't remember exactly what he said, but I'm MVM or die. So here's the deal. I have an easy out. I know Jeremy won't do it. So that leaves Jason Perez. And honestly, I might lean towards Jason anyway. I think he's great. Jason, for people who don't know, the One Stop Co-op Shop is a great YouTube channel that clearly focuses on co-op and solo games. That's their main focus. And Jason regularly does very, very good run-throughs. He does a really good job. With just a little bit of direction, I think he could do a Rahdo runs through brilliantly. Don't get me wrong. All three of these guys could do it. They all have the chops. They all have the charisma. But, yeah, I'm going to give it to Jason. Although, I mean, heck, guys, if any of you are listening, the door is open. I would love to have all three of you. I mean, it would be amazing. But, yeah, I think Z's pretty happy where he is. And I know Jeremy is. And I'm sure Jason is as well. But, yeah, I think that's how I would break down. That was a tough one. Okay, number 5, Dieter. I'll only keep campaign playable games or roll and writes. Wow. I mean, my gut is campaign playable games, but that so narrows down everything. Let's go back. Go way back when to Board Game Geek. Let's go to ranked.rahdo.com. If I went with campaign games, wait, actually, no, I can do this with advanced search, can't I? Yeah, because I think campaign is a mechanism. Is it? Campaign. Oh, battle-driven. No. All right, scenario mission campaign games. There we go. So, scenario mission campaign games owned by me. Get rid of expansions and show me what you got. Okay. That's a decent list. It looks like 2/3 of a page. I think there's 100 games on a page like this. So this looks like maybe, I don't know, 60 games or so. A good collection. Now let's do the same thing. Board Game Geek. And go to Advanced Search. And say, what do I own? See, I'm kind of cheating, Dieter. You make these so hard. I have to phone a friend, basically. And my friend is Board Game Geek. Now I think it's called Paper. Yeah, paper and pencil games. That's what they call roll and write as their mechanism. And owned by me, no expansions. And what do we got? Okay. About the same number of games either way. So, I'm getting about the same depth. And here's the deal. If the roll and writes had been twice as long, I might have gone for that. But since I've got roughly the same number, maybe a few more roll and writes than campaign. But hey, I've got some of my favorite games of all time under campaign. I got The Loop. I got Revive. I've got Gloomhaven. I've got, yeah. I've got some I don't care about that much. But, I've got Near and Far. And, of course, Now or Never, which is missing because nobody labeled it as such, right? Is Now or Never not here? Never. Yep, but, no, okay. With this casual scan, and I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I care more about being able to play a game after game after game after game. I love campaign play more than roll and write. And the numbers back it up. So that was an easy one. See, you were making them hard. Now you're making them too easy. Okay, number 6, Tuscany, which is the expansion for viticulture. And I assume you mean viticulture as well. Or okay, these are 3 expansions. All right, so from an expansion point of view, if I can only have one of these 3 expansions for these 2 games, Tuscany versus Expedition Leaders for Lost Ruins of Arnak versus Arts and Architecture for Tapestry. First of all, you messed up, Dieter. You should have said Viticulture World for Viticulture. Because Tuscany, I could take it or leave it, quite frankly. Honestly, Tuscany, or Viticulture is nice. Tuscany adds a lot of stuff. Didn't keep enough for me to keep Viticulture. I got Viticulture back because of Viticulture World. So I'm going to change it up. I'm going to make it hard on myself. I'm just going to call it World. Viticulture World versus Expedition Leaders versus Tapestry Arts and Architecture. Now we've got a challenge. And I'm going to take out Expedition Leaders. If I couldn't have Expedition Leaders, I would get rid of Lost Ruins of Arnak. But I've got so many other wonderful deck builders, I'd be okay with that. And Arts and Architecture, I know that would be Jen's choice because she loves the Arts track. The new purple 5th track. And also, wasn't that the expansion that allows you to start using the cool little mini buildings for something other than just filling space? You could use them as resources. So that's an amazing expansion. And very, but But Tapestry, I am happy to own Tapestry. If no expansion ever came out, I would still keep it. Viticulture, without Viticulture World, I do not keep. So that's it. Easy peasy. It is Viticulture World. But if we had stuck with Viticulture Tuscany, it would have been Arts and Architecture for Tapestry. Okay. Number 7, metal coins, poker chips, or cardboard coins. And most people say, "What? How's that even a choice? Why does cardboard coins go there?" I mean, I love cardboard coins. But normally people ask, "Hey, what do you prefer? Do you prefer metal coins or cardboard chits?" And I normally say cardboard chits because there's no denying the tactile joy of fiddling with a lovely heavy coin from Red Raven Games, for example, or Garp Hill Games. Oh man, they do some great coins. That is fantastic. I know Jen loves them too. Everybody loves them. But they are still just gray coins or silver coins or gold coins. I want to see the art. So if I had to choose, because sometimes the art on coins is lovely. A lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's boring. And I think, oh, they could have done something more. But you gave me the easy out. You put poker chips. Poker chips have the art of cardboard coins, but they have the weight and tactile feel. So I'm going to say poker chips and mini poker chips. Love them, love them, love them. It is poker chips. Alrighty. Number 8, a party game, a sports game, or a Euro game with a lot of take that. Wow. I'm going to assume it's a Euro game where I couldn't house rule it. I mean, the game would be broken if I got rid of the take that by changing the rules. Wow. That's a good one. My inclination is to say none. None, please. I would say a sports game if it's like Portal Games' 11 or Board Game Table's Basket Boss, where it's not about the sport, it's about the business behind the sport. But me, that's me basically turning a sports game into a Euro game. And I know that's not what you mean. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh geez. You have given me no good choices. I honestly don't want any of those things. I guess I'll say a party game. Because once or twice a year, I maybe have use for party games. And then the rest of the year, they'll just gather dust. But I have no use for sports games that are just pure representations of sports. I have no use for a really wonderful economic simulation where we spend the entire game just ripping, like Barrage would be a great example of a Euro game that is a brilliant design, but is so completely overloaded with take that. I mean, I know, and there are some really great sports games that have Euro-y elements. Like some people might say, what about Flamme Rouge? Or its replacement, Heat. I mean, because, racing is a sport as well. And I've played a lot of these games, and I think they're really neat. But still, I am so actively turned away by sports in general. In real life, I kind of hate sports. And while I appreciate what they represent at the best, the true reality of sports is I see nothing good. I think for the most part, professional sports is a corrosive and toxic influence on pop culture. And I would be happy if people stopped celebrating sports whatsoever, and the only reason sports existed was because people played it for fun. That would make I think the world would be a better place without sports in general. And that's, I know, a very, very hot take. And maybe I'm going to get some follow-up questions for this in next month's podcast in the personal section, where people like me to drill down on that. But because that is how I feel about sports, no thanks. Even if it's a really good one, even if it's kind of Euro-y like Flamme Rouge. So yeah, party games. Because, hey, who doesn't like a party? Me. I don't like a party. I am the biggest misanthropic closet shut-in you're ever going to meet. But, hey, if I got to be in a party... And plus, you put in party games, and officially that includes Codenames. And Codenames is an amazing cooperative game. And I bet you there are probably a handful of other party games like Codenames that somehow miraculously work well with 2 that I could still enjoy. So it's party games. Because Rahdo likes to party all the time, party all the time, party all the time. Okay, number 9. Never play a new-to-me board game anymore, or never play a board game that I've already played. Wow. I love these. Because, I have to imagine, for the rest of my life, only ever playing a board game once. No matter how much I loved it, no matter how much, oh my gosh, there's so much there. As opposed to, I mean, basically what this means is, how many games have I played? I have probably played, well, there's the 400 that are on my shelves right now. There's the almost 2,000 that I've done run-throughs of over the years. There's like another 50 or 60 in the next room. No, but I haven't played those. Those don't count. And there's also just probably at least another 500 or so games over the last decade that I have played that never got covered, or that I played before I ever started doing Rahdo Runs Through. So that is giving me, only play games I've already played, that is giving me a lifetime worth of amazing gameplay experiences. So I will not want for games if I choose number 2 at all, because of my weird situation that is very unusual, and I would say unhealthy, quite frankly. The fact that, again, it's almost 11 years now, folks, that I've been doing Rahdo Runs Through. I've done a run through now for almost 2,000 games. And there's probably at least another 1,000 games beyond that I have played that I never did a run through for. So, but to give up to give up the novel, oh, that is hard, because I love it. I am a total Cult of the New devotee. As unhealthy as it is, I love it. I love it. It's why I started Rahdo Runs Through. It's because I wanted to keep playing new games, and I knew I was going to be in a situation where I couldn't afford to keep buying as many games as I wanted. I've never made a secret of this. Everybody says, oh, only start doing board game media because you love it, and it's a hobby. And I say that too, especially now. But 10 years ago, I started because I wanted to get popular enough to get publishers to send me games because I couldn't afford to buy them anymore. I've never made a secret of that. Then, of course, it ultimately turned into a career and all of that, which was very, very good, too, because I certainly didn't want to go back to working in the video game industry. So I love new things. There's nothing I love more than experiencing something new. I mean, I think about TV shows. I mean, there's so many shows I love, but there's so many new shows. I mean, to give up on anything that will ever come out in the future, no matter how amazing it is, no matter how well it builds on what has come before. As a designer myself, there's nothing I love more than, some game that other reviewers would just say, this has been there, done that. You just took this and this and combined them. And like boring. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Look how this chocolate and this peanut butter that we've experienced in the past comes together and creates something new. That's magic. That's alchemy. And to forever deny myself that. Wow, that is harder than all the other questions put together. So I will cheat again, and I will think about my wife, because these are the games I'm playing with the rest of my life for my wife. And I know she would say, no, I want to play more Agricola. I want to play more Dungeon Pets. I want to play more Escape. Because again, she's like a normal person that doesn't delight in seeing new design paradigms grow from, somebody comes up with an idea, and then 2 years later, another game comes out that riffs on that idea, but does a completely new thing. And then 5 years after that, somebody does this amazing thing that everybody says, where did that come from? That changes the entire notion of what a board game is. And everybody's like, wow, that's amazing. And I'm like, were you not looking 7 years ago? Look at this. There's a direct path. I love that. But Jen, like a normal person, doesn't care at all. I'm gonna say I can never play another new game, but I think for my own devices I would go the other way. But I gotta put my wife first, because I love her, of course. And never visit the website Board Game Geek, or never visit YouTube. That's pretty easy. Because of course, at the end of the day, I can be totally cheap. I can cheat. No! I was going to say, I can cheat either way. Because, hey, whatever I need from Board Game Geek, I can probably find on YouTube. Somebody will have covered a game, and if they didn't say, I'll just be able to post, and they'll say, well, just go and look it up on Board Game Geek. And I'll say, I'm not allowed because some guy named Dieter cast a spell on me. So could you just tell me? And I'd probably get anything I need from Board Game Geek I can get from YouTube. And everything I want from YouTube, I cannot get from Board Game Geek. So yeah, it's YouTube. YouTube wins. Thanks, Dieter. Those were fun. I look forward to the next torture you want to put me through. Although I don't know how you can keep that up. Those are brilliant. Those are some brilliant ones. Okay, next up we have Gerald, who says, what week do you think you will release your run-through of the new Stonemaier game, Expeditions? I would say roughly 2 weeks after I get a copy of it, give or take, depending on the circumstances. I'm very excited about it, but and I mean, obviously that's going to be a hot game, and I can't wait to play it. See, that's the existence of that. How could I give up on the potential for Scythe made for me and Jen? Because I guarantee you, Jamie Stegmaier was thinking of me and Jen when he was developing Scythe Expeditions. He totally was. He hasn't told me that, but based on stuff he's told me in the past, I know he was. And for me to say no to that, just so I could play more Gloomhaven? But anyway, sorry. Still stuck on that last Dieter question. Ooh, that was a tough one. But anyway, as soon as I get it, I don't know. When it was announced, I asked Jamie, hey, when can I get a copy of this? I'd love to cover it. Very casually, very nonchalantly. And he said, don't worry, you're on the list. We'll send you one, but I don't have a date. So all I can say is probably within 2 weeks of me getting the game, and getting it, learning it, playing it, scheduling time with Jen, so she'll play it with me some, and then filming it, and then Apollo goof checking it. As a general rule, I can do it faster, but usually my in a hurry turnaround is about 2 weeks for a hot game like that. Continuing on with these questions, asked Gerald, are there any mechanisms that you see used in higher player count games that you'd love? Oh, and by the way, 2 weeks, that's a fast turnaround. That's like an express. That's something that if board game publishers say, hey, we're launching a Kickstarter campaign in 3 weeks, we can get you the game 2 weeks before the Kickstarter campaign. Can you do it? I'll say, yeah, that's going to be a rush job, and I charge a rush fee. So 2 weeks is still fast. But for a game like Expeditions, I'm jonesing, knowing nothing about it, because I think that goes to your next question. Are there mechanisms that you see used in higher player? Oh no, you're just talking in general. Are there mechanisms from higher player count games that I'd love to see working great with 2 players? Okay, so we're done with Expeditions. Most mechanisms can work well with 2. People say auctions don't work. I say bullpucky. Check out a little game called Peloponnese or Fleet with the expansion, or so many great auction games, or Homesteaders. And area control generally doesn't work very well with 2, but that's okay because I don't want it. You know what I'll say? Negotiation. I love negotiation in games. It is so engaging and fun. It's not something I ever want to do in real life. I hate it when we go on vacation to some port of call where, the fun of shopping is haggling over the prices. And I feel I do not want to do that. Hey, whatever you're charging is what I'm going to pay. I hate negotiation in real life, but I love it when I'm role-playing a ruthless negotiator. And of course, the very nature of negotiation cannot work in 2 players, except it can. I can think of one game, City Council, that is a brilliant game that made negotiation work in 2 player. And there's probably a few others here and there, maybe some I'm even forgetting. But I would like to see more of that. Although, unfortunately, my gaming partner, Jen, does not like to negotiate. So she doesn't necessarily want to see more of that because I get a little too into it. I have to pare it back a bit and not go into full-on sales mode every time a new potential trade comes up. But anyway, let's see. Oh, and actually, Gerald had an example talking about auction games. And of course, auction games are fantastic too, if you do it right. Okay, that was Gerald. Now we have Gerard, who says, I just wanted to say, I still listen to the podcast from time to time. I'm not driving 3 hours like I used to. I'm saddened that I am no longer buying board games like I used to. I was just wondering, now that you are, quote, retired, do you find yourself busier than when you were working full time? No, because when I was working full time in the video game industry, I generally worked 60 to 80 hours a week for years at a time, uninterrupted. And then occasionally, I'll take a week off now to go on a vacation, and then I will go right back to working 60 hours is a light week, and 80 hours is a medium week, and sometimes I won't leave the building for 2 or 3 days in a row. That was my experience working in the video game industry for 2 decades. I definitely, right now, I would say with Rahdo Runs Through, as a full-time professional career, it's probably the equivalent of like a 40-hour-a-week job. Sometimes things get really hectic. Some months go really bad, and things go crazy over the top. And sometimes I get some slowdown. But the thing is, every time I have to work hard, and I'm like, this deadline. It's my own fault because I'm in control of my own destiny. And I can't go back to working for other people. Certainly not other people who wouldn't think twice about making me work 80 hours a week and stay away from Jen all that time because of some arbitrary milestone. So, Yeah. There we go. Gerald also says, if it wasn't for board gaming, I guess, Gerald, I'm assuming, yes, the subtext there must have been, you must have recently retired. In which case I can only say congratulations. Or maybe it's not. If you're retired, you have plenty of time to listen to the podcast, even if you're not commuting 3 hours every day. Man, my commute to Splash Damage, 4 hours minimum there and back again every day. And when it was snowy in the winter, sometimes 5 or 6 hours. And working the whole time, and then still working 10 to 12 hours, and then getting back on the train. No, under those circumstances, those would be, adding that up, those would be staying overnight. But no, there were plenty of times where, okay, I made it back home, and honey, I'm just going to go directly to sleep, and then I got to get right back on the train tomorrow. That happened. I remember that. Jen remembers that. She won't let me go back, even if I want to. Right. Gerald then has another one. If it wasn't for board games and what I do with the community, i.e. my new 40-hour-a-week job, what do I think I'd be doing? My perfect day-to-day, if I were truly retired, which I certainly hope to be someday, my perfect week, since we're talking about like work weeks, every day I play one game with Jen. Just one game. Big game, small game, doesn't matter. Just play one game. I probably spend 3 hours minimum reading. I spend an hour minimum exercising. Maybe that's every other day, right? Something like that. But exercising. Get back into this kind of shape I was in my 20s, because there's nothing stopping me from doing that other than the fact that after working 40 hours a week on all of this, I just don't have the strength to do exercise. But I would like to. Helping Jen more with projects around the house. I hate it, but I think I would hate it a lot less if I got time to fill. More walks with the dogs, more bike riding, and more long-term RV trips on the road, all of them adhering to that rough schedule I just gave you. That is what my ideal rest of my life, 7 days a week, 365 a year, until the day I die is I think that's the dream. Right. And then a lot of YouTube watching and podcasts listening to as well. I mean, give that 3 hours a day as well. Okay. Jack is back. And Jack says, I just saw you let go of Santa Maria because of the subject matter. That is correct. That is interesting. I did not announce that to anybody, so that means Jack pays attention. Jack is such a hardcore fan, and Jack, I'm touched, I didn't know this, that you're actually paying attention to gone.rahdo.com, which whenever I get rid of a game, I update and say, why did I get rid of the game? And you're right, I didn't get rid of it. It's going to the Dice Tower West Convention Library, and that includes American Kingdoms. It includes the little mini expansion that gives special player powers. So if you're going to Dice Tower West, there's a copy of all the Trimmins Santa Maria now in their library for you to play. Anyway, continue with Jack. In the past, you praised Santa Maria's handling of its subject matter, given it includes a full page of the history, and you said it makes history come alive. You even called on other publishers to emulate a Porta's approach to history. After all these years, what changed? Do you now feel games should no longer be made about these areas of history? No, I don't feel that at all. And honestly, I would still stand by what I said all those years ago that you're quoting. I think there's a lot of areas for improvement in the board game industry. And I think I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about, seeing things evolve and change from one game to another, and where people don't see connections, I see connections. Because I know, as a former designer myself, I know all designers, and Reiner Knizia, I'm looking at you. I don't believe you when you say you never play any other games, you never get inspiration from anybody. Yes, you do. Come on, you know it, Dr. K. But, I love tracing those tracks as a designer myself, a professional designer. But, and so, at the time that Santa Maria came out, I thought it was cutting edge, for lack of a better term, in its handling on the let's say, sticky subject of colonization, because it did two things. And I only talked about one at the time, and I really came to appreciate another thing later on. The one is, as you said, they were fully aware of the history they were doing. They were not just saying, what? It's just a game. Who cares? And they did actually try to educate and inform, by devoting a portion of their rulebook. And they did the same with American Kingdoms, with the expansion, where suddenly you could actually play as the indigenous people and try to protect your civilization from the colonizers. And I thought that was very impressive too. And then the other thing I always appreciate about Santa Maria is the fact that, yes, they definitely had something to say about colonization. They were not a game that was just turning a blind eye and saying, oh, it all happened in history. Who cares? It's just a game. Have fun. Because they, if anything, Santa Maria was a satirical take on colonization. Because in that game, as the colonizers of South America, you literally earn happiness points. And of course, they are doing that as a satirical jab on players who just happily and blithely played, back in the day, colonization games. Say, oh, I can turn a blind eye to history. I don't particularly care. I'm just happy playing my game. Yay, I get happiness points. And make no mistake, that was them actually using their game as an art form to make a statement about the state of the industry. And I always thought that was incredibly impressive. I still stand by that. However, it doesn't change the fact that it is still, this came up because I was doing a ranking video and I had to compare Santa Maria to something else, and it was really tough because Santa Maria, from a design point of view, is in my top 25 games of all time. There are a few games that are a better pure engine for gaming goodness than that game. But I stopped cold in my tracks. So to me, I have not played Santa Maria since I covered American Kingdoms when it was crowdfunding. And, when you ask, Jack, what's changed? I've changed. I've grown and evolved. I think the industry is growing and evolving, and so am I. And while once upon a time, for me, the two big things that Santa Maria does, that I do think I still laud and respect that they did it, but I was able to do that looking at Santa Maria and everything it represented from a more intellectual point of view. No, not intellectual, an academic point of view. As somebody who literally has no skin in the game, I could just say back and, oh, look how clever they are, turning this entire thing on its head by using the very tropes that are typified against it to make a statement. Isn't that wonderful? And here's the deal. There are plenty of people who would say, that's exactly what I was doing when I did blackface, man. And I was trying to make a comment about how terrible blackface is by doing blackface. And that's not good enough anymore. Once upon a time, I might have said, oh, well, good on them. Wow, they're really subverting the tropes. But no, you know what? There are other ways you can make those points without having to do a game that satirically and ironically celebrates the act of colonization. Because make no mistake, that is what Santa Maria does. And they do it with a wink and a nod to the audience because they were self-aware. And I respect that academically, but emotionally, because I have grown and changed and evolved on this subject, I can't handle it anymore. And I cannot imagine sitting down and playing that game and just letting myself get lost in the fantasy, or not the not in the mechanisms, while saying, but you know what? I'm still a good person because I appreciate what they're doing here. Another thing that really made this come into stark relief for me is the Harry Potter, Hogwarts computer game. That, of course, is creating such a brouhaha. I am firmly on the side of, yes, this is getting more into the personal, so I won't, this is not board games, but it's still gaming adjacent. Won't stay on this long, don't worry, folks. J.K. Rowling is doing real harm in the world by normalizing anti-LGBTQ attitudes and making other people who are capable of doing real harm in the world, who are literally dangerous, they take their cue from that woman and say, well, if J.K. Rowling says it's okay for me to literally stalk and harass LGBTQ people because of drummed up fears that don't exist, then I'll do it. Thanks for I'm glad you got my back, Joanne. And in the face of that, if I were still playing video games, you better believe I would not touch Hogwarts Legacy with a 10-foot pole. And I think for me, it would be unthinkable, because me supporting that is me supporting direct harm to people who suffer enough already and don't need me piling on just the tiniest microaggression. Me playing Hogwarts Legacy is me saying, I value my enjoyment of life more than you being able to live a life free of harassment, and that's unacceptable to me. And everything I just said is equally valid for Santa Maria. Even though, because in Hogwarts Legacy, hey, they put an LGBTQ player or character in the game, although they messed it up. And I am certain there were many members of the development team that were actually trying to, work within the constraints they had, because, they got to make a living. But yeah, I can't support that, and that's why I can't support Santa Maria anymore, as much as I love it. Because if I could actually say, yeah, what kind of selfish jerk puts their own, I saw one video from Steve Shives, a channel I really enjoy on YouTube. I highly recommend it if you're a Star Trek fan. And his thing was, what, you just can't play a game? It's just one game. Just don't play it. It doesn't hurt you to not play one game of the 5,000 games that came out this year, many of which are better. Just walk away. Say that you support. Say that you are an ally. And everything I just said is 100% true of Santa Maria too. So I respect it. And to your other question, should games about history no longer be made? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely absurd. No one is saying that. That is the ultimate straw man argument from the right. That we're saying, no, we should ignore history. No, you should be respectful of history. And hey, you know what? The dominant narrative for literal centuries has been the history from the perspective of white conquerors. How about we focus on a new history, a history that doesn't get celebrated? How about, as Puerto Rico 1893 shows, how about we have just as good a gameplay, but celebrate the history of the people who survived colonization and rebuilt? Santa Maria could easily be translated to Santa Maria 1893 or whatever the appropriate date would be. I don't know. And I would be all over that game in a heartbeat. And it could be about true happiness instead of satirical, ironic happiness. And the world would literally be a better place for it. And so, that is why I got rid of Santa Maria. Thanks for asking, Jack. Hopefully that answers that fairly clearly for you, even if you disagree, as I know you do. But anyway, thanks for asking. I know you ask it in good faith. You are not a sea lion. I appreciate that. Okay, next up. We're not done with Jack, folks. Although, man, this is going long. Oh, so many questions. But we're gonna get through it, folks. Stick in with me. Yikes. Okay. Agricola, says Jack, was one of my favorite gamer games purchased. I enjoy it, but it didn't feel special. So out it went. Boom. Oh no, Jack. However, my Rahdo unique description about what makes it special, namely the card play, made me want to revisit and try the draw 15, choose 7 variant, which is so weird. That variant, which is so important to that game, is so well hidden that most people don't know it exists, but it's what makes the game truly awesome. And so I'm glad, Jack, that me talking about it made you aware of it. That's fantastic. I previously only played with the 7 draw standard rules, which, yeah, I mean, that game does itself so much harm by saying this is the way to play. Anyway, though, suffice to say, the small change made all the difference. I love the game where you have a large set of cards you have to choose based off the interactions with each other. Terraforming Mars and Ark Nova are my favorite games, and Agricola, with this small change, captures that magic. You are entirely right. That is a great comparison to make. Anyway, however, people, besides you, Rahdo, never champion this element of Agricola. The focus is always on the tight worker placement and resource management. I certainly never see a comparison made to Terraforming Mars or Ark Nova. So, question. Do you think the comparison I made is apt in the discussion around Agricola, or does it do a disservice? I think you are entirely right. I think, yes, this game, every time I hear somebody say Agricola is, what's the point? Just do a little bit of everything. And because it's a point salad game and you have to do everything. And like, no, if you feel that way, sit down and play the game with me. I will destroy you. Because everything about that game is coming up with synergy between those cards. And you have to plan an entire game of 18 rounds, I forget how many rounds, from before the first worker is placed on the table. And then you have to find a way to make that plan to come to fruition from start to finish. And there are very few other games that do anything close to that. But you're right, Terraforming Mars has kind of that vibe. I would say not as far. And Ark Nova too. I like it. I think those are very apt descriptions. Let's see here. Speaking of doing the game a disservice, warning, I'm calling you out, Rahdo, I went back to your run-through of Agricola, and it completely glosses over the thought process, a selection of occupation and my improvements. Do you think you did Agricola a disservice by leaving that out? what you admit is the element that makes the game so special, namely choosing how to play the cards. I'm really surprised by that. And I would say, yes, I would agree, Jack. You are right. Because that is the single... And honestly, if I had to guess as to why I left that out, I don't think... I mean, I've always played it that way. But you got to remember, I mean, Agricola has to be like one of the first 50 games I ever did a run-through for. And it was early days. And, on the surface... I can't blame anybody for thinking, oh yeah, Agricola, it's just like one of the early worker placement games. But other than that, it's nothing special. It just occupies. You want to play Caverna. That's the special game. Like, no, Caverna took so many steps down and it compromised so much by getting rid of the cards and just making it the same, blah, blah, blah. I've talked about this great like past. I'm sure you've heard me. But, hey, I was young. I was new. Was it still my first or second year? And the thing is, I bet you anything, I personally did not appreciate this about Agricola until I had to, because I remember when I played Caverna, I was so excited for Caverna. Oh, this is going to destroy Agricola. Everybody's saying it's so much better than Agricola. And Jen and I sat down and played and we're like, oh my God, this is terrible in comparison to Agricola. It's a great game, don't get me wrong. But I think, that's probably, in all honesty, a really important moment in the growth of my channel, or more importantly, me and my ability to critically analyze board games. Maybe before that, I was just fanboying out early on and just looking at things at the surface. Because, yeah, you're right. Isn't that run through? Didn't I actually spend most of my time talking about Farmers of the Moor? That could have also been the mistake too. I don't know. I mean, we're talking about a video I probably did, 9-10 years ago. So I don't really remember for sure. I remember I filmed it back when we were still living in Malta in the castle, not in the apartment. So that was in my first year of filming. I did that. So all I can say is you are right, and I did it dirty. But hopefully, since then, I have redeemed myself by, well, at least in one case, I know I got through to one person, Jack, and honestly, that makes me so happy. Nothing makes me happier about everything I've done than knowing I have had the potential to make other people happy with the content I create. That was true for video games, and that's true for the channel. Anyway. Is the publisher going to send you a new Agricola 15 big box? Are you excited? Maybe you could do a run-through and include the initial card selection strategy in it. As I understand, the new 15 big box, well, first of all, it's a gigantic box, the size of those boxes you had in Portal, isn't it? The video game. They're like big boxes. It's like a big box. It fills an entire calyx. It's like an Anachrony-sized box, right? I'm not excited about that because, honestly, everything fits in the original box, plus I have the revived edition now, plus these little side things. It would be nice to be able to put them all in one box, but not a box that big. Not a box that big. For years, I had my entire Agricola contained in the Agricola box, the Farmers of the Moor box, and a separate box that held all of the wooden components. And I guarantee you, those three things took up probably only 60% of the big box. I have no use for the big box and like all its sorting and you can put all cards kind of thing. And then on top of that, the big thing the big box does is it adds a bunch of the weird little quirky stuff that came out over the years, right? It adds the X deck and the seasons. And I've tried, in the legendary forest, I've tried all of those things over the year. And I never really cared about any of them. And I don't miss them at all. So it seems like most of the stuff they put in the big box that's new and exciting, I'm personally not excited about. Plus then, because don't forget, it's right here. Every one of my videos, you see, right over my shoulder, Agricola Bubbleclust deck, Artifix deck, Dulcinaria deck, Consul Dirigens deck, and Corbett. I've got them all right here. And if you get the big box, you don't get all this stuff. Now, I need to look into a little more, because I think maybe there are some things in here that I don't have that are in the big box. If that's the case, I kind of want to get it. But if it's only like 5 cards, I don't think it's worth it. And me personally, the more and more huge, elaborate, big boxes with amazingly architected inserts to make setup really fast and easy, but then make teardown a nightmare, the more of those I see, the less of them I like. So personally, I'd love to try it out, but I'm not jumping up and down for it. I've already got the revised. To be honest, I still got my original one. It's right up there. Hold on. Sorry for people who are listening rather than watching. Where is it? Arrgh. Look at it. Here it is. All dusty. And even ripped apart. Oh, this game has seen so many good days and good memories, even though it's beat all to crap. I'll never get rid of this. But if we play with our revised edition. And that's just an heirloom. For a child I will never have. Because I had a vasectomy at the age of 22. Oops, got into personal stuff there. Let's continue. When you and Jen play, do you do the standard draw or the variant? No, of course the variant. Just getting whatever you get, no. And also, we have no interest in what most people think is the right way to play is the card draft. Hey, I'll take 7 cards. I'll keep 1. I'll give 6 to the next person. I'll take some more. I think that's horrible. I think that actively makes the game terrible. And again, but that's how most people think it's supposed to be played, and it's fine. I guess at a higher player count, it's okay, but I hate it. I've done it a few times, and at a higher player count, it's okay. At 2-player, it's garbage. So the only way to play is, I assume you're quoting the numbers right. Is it 15 and 7? I was thinking it was wasn't it like 20 and 9? But I haven't played Agricola for a few days. I'd have to go look it up myself. So that's the only way to play. Are there games in your collection where you feel differently about it based on the official variant you play? Okay, so you're changing where you feel differently about based on the official variant you play. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's implicit. Any variant that changes gameplay is going to make me feel differently about the game. I can't imagine that not being the case. If that were the case, I would have very poor analytical chops. And as I said earlier in this very question, I think over the years, I've gotten pretty good at analyzing what makes games interesting and unique and how changes can improve or hurt them. And I feel like I talk about that all the time in my run-throughs. I critique games all the freaking time. And yet a week does not go by where I don't hear people saying, oh, Rahdo never says anything but nice things. You know better, Jack. You know where gone.rahdo.com is. But anyway. Finally, do you think Hallertau and Brewcrafter have similar card play to Agricola? If so, does either game come with multiple decks for variety? I have to admit, I only played Brewcrafter in prototype format. I couldn't comment on that, and it's been so long. Hallertau does have some decks. Yes, so there's a bit of variety. You can choose to mix in the A deck or the B deck or the C deck. It's not as robust. And the cards in Hallertau are really abstract. So it's not like you get that same really big variety that you do. So, I mean, if you're looking to capture that magic, it is a different beast. But there are pieces of it there. Imagine the worker placement game of Agricola, but then on top of that, you are in a situation where, what is it? The card you have to play, don't think of it as like, oh, this is a card I play that gives me a power for the rest of the game. All the cards just give you one little immediate one-off instant thing. And imagine Agricola where you are drowning in different combos of cards you have in your hand, and you're trying to figure out, right, in much the same way that in Agricola, hey, from the beginning of the game, I got to figure out what order am I going to do these improvements and occupations throughout the entire game. Hallertau gives you that on kind of like a micro schedule. In this one round, what order am I going to complete these objectives to unlock and string all these things together? So it kind of feels the same, but it is very different. I mean, you can watch my run through to see, though. Okay. We're done with Joe. We're moving on to Jack. No, we're done with Jack, moving on to Joe. Questions about RPG board games. Sometimes I see board games referred to as a role-playing game or RPG-style board game. I've not played Dungeons & Dragons. However, I suspect D7D is one of the original role-playing games, and I suspect, or you meant D&D, right? Yeah, you didn't hit the show. D&D is one of the original role-playing games. I think a lot of people would argue it is the original role-playing game. I don't know the history. I know there's chainmail before that, but regardless, it's certainly where it is certainly the thing that really got the whole thing going and popularized it. I suspect role-playing is basically a story-driven adventure with some decisions and some role to resolve, and players trying to get into character. I would say it's a little bit more than that, but seeing as how your question is, what is an RPG and what is an RPG-style board game? To answer what is an RPG, it is, in my understanding, and I have never played a tabletop RPG. I've never played Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder or GURPS or anything. I'm familiar with a lot of them. I've read a lot of their source books, but I've never actually played. What I understand an RPG to be is a shared storytelling experience. There are rules, there are dice to roll, there are resources to consume, there are game-like things, but all of those are secondary. Truly, what a proper pen and paper RPG like Dungeons & Dragons is there is They're called a dungeon master, but they're really the lead storyteller. And that dungeon master is setting the stage, setting the scene for what is the story going to be, and helping direct that story. They are like the director of a movie. They're like the director and the writer. They are like a writer-director of a movie who are writing their script at the same time that they are filming the movie. And into this circumstance, you've got the player characters, who play the heroes and whatnot. They are the actors in the movie who are also helping to write the script as the movie is being made. That is the closest thing to what I would say an RPG is. Now, all of this happens in your imagination, and it's manifested on the table with rolling dice and taking notes and stuff like that. But the true heart of what the experience is, there's no better way to put it. Imagine you are the director of a movie. You are also the scriptwriter. You are writing the script while the movie is being filmed, and all the actors are putting a lot of input into the script as well, and you're all collaborating to make the coolest, most fun, exciting story that just makes everybody happy. And that's beautiful. That's brilliant. At least that's my understanding. Now, then you say, what is an RPG-style role-playing game? That is basically a board game. That is basically an RPG, everything I just described, but turning up the rules to an 11 or to 1,000, because RPGs have some rules. Right, I have a certain number of hit points. If I lose all these hit points, I die. If I try to attack somebody, I have to roll a die and compare a table and see. And so there are some rules that you follow while what you're really doing is telling the story of our adventures. And that includes combat, and that includes scaling walls and rolling dice to see if we succeed or fail. A board game takes that core idea and in most cases removes one very important thing, the dungeon master, that director/writer. And that role is replaced by the designer of the board game, who basically wrote and directed the movie before it ever showed up on the table, which is to say they designed the full game. And where an RPG, say on a scale of 1 to 100, an RPG has 5 rules, a board game has 100 rules. To try to get the same idea, that sense of, we're going on an adventure and we're making choices. But now there are rules define what we do and how we solve the problems we come along in our adventure, in our shared story experience. The rules that were created by somebody offline define what it is. But we're still having an adventure. We're still kind of having those highs and lows, fights and scaling walls and rescuing people and doing dastardly deeds or whatever it is. And then so that's that's really the main thing. It's all written in stone, and you're exploring this pre-created thing with a high level of rules, but you still get kind of the same feel. In a board game RPG, the rules define what you can do. In a regular RPG, your imagination and the imagination of all your friends around the table define what you can do. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not an expert in this, but that's my understanding. Jonathan says, I remember you said you don't like racing games. I feel the same. I think it's because it's so often remove round structure and are left with individuals to set the tone, the speed of the game. So you're going beyond just like a Formula One racer. You're talking about a game where we're just racing to score 50 points. Like, I can't think of one, but there's lots of Euros that are race games because the game is not over once we've taken 6 rounds, but once somebody scores 50 points. I just can't think of one, but I'm Race for the Galaxy. Obviously the perfect example. Hey, once somebody gets whatever the points are, it's over. Not once 15 rounds have completed and then we see how well everybody did. You're right. The structure is a big part of that. I prefer the structure, a round structure, a base structure, knowing when what the beginning, middle, and end of the game is. I don't get me wrong. I like an uncertainty factor too, but I prefer fixed structure. And Jen hugely prefers a fixed structure. And if she prefers it, I prefer it because I prefer her, and I want her to be happy when we're playing games too. Depending on who I play with, there's a sense of either pushing the game too fast or lagging behind. If you play with me, I am always pushing the game too fast, and I drive everybody else nuts. I think Stonemaier games like Viticulture, Red Rising, and even Scythe do this very well. Getting to the end of those, right? Yeah, of course. Stonemaier games love whoever gets 5 stars first, Scythe or whatever. Yeah, very, very good, very good example. I know that 2 of those 3 games are games that you like, but you say you're not fond of race games. How do you reconcile this in your brain? Well, first of all, normally, I think there's maybe a linguistic miscommunication here. Because normally when I say I don't like race games, I literally don't like games that are about cars or bicycles or sailboats or whatever it might be. Racing to cross the finish line. Because what you just described, a Euro-style race, is very, very different. One, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, I hate sports with a passion because of what I think is the net negative impact they have on human society as a whole. I think they bring some good, but they bring a lot more bad. And the world would be better off where sports only existed for friends to get together and play, I can't think of something that friends get together to play. Like board games, yay. But anyway, all that aside. So when I say I hate race games, I generally don't like true racing games, which would be defined by everything you just said, but also the idea of, hey, well, there's sports metaphors or connotations. And we'll just leave it at that. I mean, because largely otherwise you could say what's the difference between Flamme Rouge and Side? They're both just whoever gets to the thing you have to do first, whether it's crossing an arbitrary line or getting an arbitrary number of points. It's the same thing. So the thing is, I do like racing games. Because I like what I like in a racing game. A Euro style racing game where we're racing to 50 points or whatever, and we're just trying to do our stuff. I like the freedom to be able to go as fast as I can. I, in real life, am very much a bird in the hand, forget about the bush. I might get run over by a bus crossing the street. To get to that bush, to get those two birds, I'll take the one in the hand. Every time. That is my whole life ethos. And a race game really lets me exercise that muscle and push it to the limit, because I get to make choices where, I could really set up for a really awesome turn later, or I could do this right now and move forward. And I find that personally very satisfying and gratifying. Doesn't mean I can't do that within the confines of a fixed round structure, but in a fixed round structure, if I do that too much, I run the risk of burning out and okay, I did everything. And there's still 2 more rounds to this game. And I am going to lose because the people who accurately, bided their time and, saved up for a huge crescendo later are going to crush me because I had a few baby crescendos, and I hoped the game would end before they could do their big crescendo. So, strictly speaking, a round structure is not a fit to my personal gray matter and my personal life philosophy. So that is why I can appreciate a race game. But still, I can appreciate that a round-based structured game forces me to cool my jets and slow down and think about something more than just today and tomorrow, but to think about next week. And honestly, that is a very good thing for me to do. Because I'm not saying I live the healthiest ethos of bird in the hand and forget about long-term planning. I am so lucky to be married to a woman who's the antithesis of me. And honestly, we make a really good pair because I help her in real just day-to-day life not get too overwrought with making sure everything is the perfect plan. But just enjoy the moment, honey, because we might die tomorrow. And by the same token, I would probably be destitute and penniless if I didn't have her, because every spare quarter I have, I would find a way to spend it immediately. I think a round structure, brings out an alternate thought process that is good, and it is novel, and it is different, and it makes me approach things a different way, and that's a good thing. I've never really thought about this before. You've really made me have to self-analyze, but I think there's a kernel of truth to what I just said. And then you continue. As an aside, I love racing games. Now you're talking racing with cars, long shot, Formula Day, Heat, etc. Because I guess there's an intended purpose. It's not a game layered in Euro elements that uses a point track to force me to monitor where people are. It's literally pedal to the metal. And that may use some Euro elements to influence. Yeah, that's all cool. I'm sure I would enjoy Heat. And I had the opportunity to do it, but I knew at the end of the day, it's not one I'm going to keep, and I bet you Ruel will like it more. So that's why I said, send Heat to Ruel, because he'll love it. I'll think it's neat and I'll respect it, but I won't want to keep playing it. But that comes back to my extreme aversion to the point of disgust with the basic core principles of professional sports. Professional sports should have never gone professional. There should not be such a thing. Boy, that can come back to that a lot. I think I'm definitely probably going to have to explain myself next month in the podcast. Joseph says, what are my favorite cooperative games that break the pandemic or firefighting structure? Right. I've talked about this before. Pandemic really defines, because it was so successful and so many people follow the same basic structure of, hey, I've got to do some big thing. But while I'm doing that big thing, there's a lot of little problems all over the place. And if I don't tend to those, they will burn the house down. It's literally firefighting or plate spinning and all that. And so I would say the overwhelming majority of co-op games adhere to that. What is my favorite that does not? Let's go back to my games list, shall we? Or is this where we are? No, we're not. Rahdo. No, I don't want that. That goes to my YouTube page. I need to go to ranked.rahdo.com, and I'll just look from the top. Although, I don't even have to look. It's right there. Roll Camera. Roll Camera is my favorite. I bet you anything, there is not going to be another co-op game that I rank higher than Roll Camera. Ooh. No, Escape falls under that too, doesn't it? Project Elite certainly does. Forbidden Desert certainly does. Yep, Roll Camera. Roll Camera is the best. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. My most favorite recent one would be... Well, no, Roll Camera just came out a few years ago, but there are other ones. But yeah, that is a cooperative worker placement game, which is a real rarity. And that's not to say that... Okay, actually, you know what? Okay. Here's the difference between Roll Camera and Pandemic. And that's silly. There's a lot of differences. But the most impactful and important and meaningful difference between these two games is, because they're both games where there are problems, and I have to achieve a big goal while dealing with lots of little problems that will spring up and bite me in the butt if I ignore them. Is that true for all cooperative games? Can you even get away from that at all? I think maybe not. I think that's so baked in. So, the difference between Pandemic and Roll for the Camera is, in Pandemic, I'm a person in the world running around doing these things. And in Roll Camera, I am abstracted out. I don't exist. I am a force of nature. I am a nameless middle manager, or movie director in this game. And that is such a fundamental difference, because it changes everything. It changes how you interact with other people, because they don't exist in the world anymore. We don't have to get together in Santiago to be able to trade cards. We can just work together anytime. Much the same way in the real world, people can work together anytime on any big problem. On, planting Fespos, hey, if you want to work with somebody, you got to be there, and that's, on simple jobs, on primitive jobs. Problems to solve. People literally have to be there together to fix this physical thing in the world. But in the modern world, the world I worked in for 20 years as a video game developer, the problems you have to solve are more cerebral. And they're not about sitting right next to somebody, but working together wherever you are in the world. And honestly, I find that, maybe because of my background as a video game designer for 20 years, maybe that's why I like that more. What was I about to do? I was about to go back to advanced search and look a little bit deeper than just Roll Camera. So, games owned by Rahdo, not expansions. Mechanic is, and this is so dumb, cooperation is not a game mechanic at all. But, hey, Board Game Geek is not perfect. I love it, but it's not perfect. So we'll say cooperative game as a mechanism. Let's look at the cooperative games I own. And just to mention a couple others, to put that to the test, is there something else? Right, so I'm looking for games where I do not exist. I do not have an avatar in the world. Lord of the Rings, you kind of do. Pandemic, of course, you do. Marvel Champions, you kind of do. Mysterium, you don't. And Mysterium is one singular thing you are trying to do. There are no other subs. So, okay, I take back my other saying. You can have a cooperative game that is all about just one solid act that has to be done. But it's interesting. No, it's not. In Mysterium, if I am the ghost player, I am still spinning plates, because I have however many other players I am playing with. Oh, what is your problem? What do I need to fix with you? What's going on over there? And while I do not exist as a physical avatar in the world, I am still dealing with multiple things while trying to achieve one big thing. Solve the mystery, solve the murder. So even there, it still happens. The mind No, I'm going to say there are little individual instances. I'm trying to pay attention to what, if I'm playing 2-player, maybe it's different. But if I'm playing a 3-player, and you don't want to play the mind as a 2-player game, it's terrible. You want to play with at least 3, ideally 4 or 5. I am trying to pay attention to what do I know of all these people? How long would they wait? Why haven't they played anything yet? I'm evaluating all of them while still trying to achieve an overall goal and trying to decide how to move forward myself. I think that's going to hold up. So I'm going to stick with that. Anyway, so there's a few examples of what. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I love Pandemic. Pandemic is my number 1 ranked game of all time. My number 3 ranked game of all time is Gloomhaven, which is another game that does the same. My number 2 favorite game of all time is Shadowrun Crossfire, which is a cooperative game that does not do that. Well, actually, that's not true. Sometimes it does. There have been some missions. Is that true? We don't move through the world. The thing about Shadowrun Crossfire, the world moves to us. We are a stationary solid object, but we do still exist in some sort of meaningful way. Anyway, it's all very interesting and abstract and academic, but those are interesting thoughts. Hopefully I answered your question. Oh, do I prefer firefighting or other? See, that's what I was just saying. I don't think there's such a thing as a cooperative game. And by all means, right back next month, Joseph, because obviously I just gave this a very cursory glance, and I didn't think about this too hard, because I realized this is going to be a very long episode, and I'm only to the J's and the M's. Well, I think we end at the M, so I think we are almost done. Anyway, so when you say firefighting versus the other, they're all firefighting. But what I will say is, given my druthers, even though my actual collection wouldn't support this, I prefer a cooperative game where I am an external actor. I am not represented. The least interesting thing about Pandemic is traveling around the world. Because people don't realize Pandemic is a set collection game, and all of us working to set collect. And I've actually played a version of Pandemic that's not called Pandemic. It's called Goonies, the adventure card game that is basically Pandemic without the board. And it's brilliant. Now, I still like Pandemic more because Pandemic has so many expansions and legacy and all of that. But I think, and now it could just be I'm drawn to the one where I do not have an avatar in the world, just because that is so unusual and it's so unique. And as I talked about earlier, I tend towards novel and new rather than tried and true. And certainly, I own a lot more games where I have an avatar, Legends of Andor, or whatever it might be. Okay. Do you have any experience with games like Hive, Chess, Go? If so, which are your favorite among them? Do you enjoy playing these types of games? No, no, and no. I do not enjoy at all playing a game where I'm going to sit down in a completely abstract environment and spend the next 30 minutes to 3 hours with all my thought bent towards how to prevent you personally from doing what you want to do, which is what those games are. I want to live and let live. I want to work with you, or at the very least, work adjacent to you and interact with you in positive ways instead of, haha, I cut you off. So yes, I have played all 3. If somebody asked me to, I would not want to play any of them. They're just not my brain chemistry does not allow me to enjoy those experiences, quite frankly. I'm currently designing, says Joseph, a light roll and write game, but I have an embarrassingly not played any roll and writes. As a seasoned designer and board gamer, which roll and writes do you think I should try to help understand the genre? I think the easiest choice would be immediately, do not pass go, get Rolling Realms. Because if you get Rolling Realms, you are getting, I forget exactly, it's like 10 or 12 unique roll and write style games. Because it's a hodgepodge. Instead of playing one roll and write from start to finish, because there are several different subgenres within the genre, within the class, and they all do different things. There's roll and write route builders. There's roll and write combo chainers. There's roll and write resource. There's roll and write worker placement games. There's all kinds of stuff. Almost every type of roll and write subset you can imagine made it into Rolling Realms. Because in Rolling Realms, you start out saying, hey, I randomly picked 3 roll and writes, and I'm going to play them in like a very hyper-accelerated game. As soon as I'm done with one of those, I'm going to move on to a different one. So if you're only going to get one, there's no choice about it. It's Rolling Realms. It's one of the things that makes that game so amazing. Okay, Matt says, I just keep your... Sorry, this is going so long, folks, but I think the light is coming to the end of the tunnel. I see you just kept your completed Clank Legacy box and you got rid of the base game and in space, Clank in Space, to save shelf space. Have you ever played the base game with the expansions? Oh, yeah. I played not all the expansions. I played most of them. If so, how did they compare to Legacy? Oh, playing regular Clank with an expansion as opposed to playing Clank Legacy without an expansion. My group is 70% of the way through Legacy, so I was just thinking of whether I'll be keeping it once we finish or just stick with the base game plus expansions. I don't see a reason to own Clank. I could be wrong about this. You should double check with this because maybe I have not thought it through. But I think you should be able to finish Clank Legacy, and at which point you will have your own version of the Clank board that is special and unique and meaningful. You'll have 2 different Clank boards. So it's like you'll have Clank and an expansion built in, and you'll have customized cards. You'll have all kinds of things that are a reflection of you and your friends and family that will have so much more emotional resonance than you than just buying a vanilla game of Clank. And I believe, I could be wrong about this, somebody spot check me, or go to Gordon Game and double check this. You could then take those customized assets and play the Pyramid Sphinx board. You could buy that Pyramid Sphinx board and use your resources from Clank Legacy and transfer them over. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do that. And by the same token, standalone stuff that gives you like the acquisition incorporated little mini characters. Everybody has their own unique starting character. You could play those with regular Clank, or you could play them with Clank Legacy. Honestly, I just saw no reason to keep all this other stuff when I would never enjoy any of it as much as I would enjoy playing Clank on the board that is a reflection of me and Jen. So I think you could do it, but don't take my word for it because I have not done the proper research. Any thought on Andromeda's Edge? I know Shay did the run-through for Dwellings of Eldervale. Is he going to cover it for sequel? Yeah, if they send us a copy, I would love to get it on the channel. I would love to hear what the differences are. Shay covered Dwellings for Eldervale. I thought it looked brilliant, did a lot of really great stuff, deserved all the praise it got, but it had too much cutthroatedness. A very tiny bit of cutthroatedness, but still too much cutthroatedness for my taste. I'm assuming that didn't change for Andromeda's Edge. So I hope that the publisher decides to reach out and say, hey, can we get Shay to cover this too? Because I loved watching his video, and it confirmed everything I thought. And I'd love to find out, maybe Andromeda's Edge is one I could play. But I got too much stuff to cover, and so I'm just assuming the worst. Alrighty. Now, from another Matt, a completely different Matt. Matt needs to butter me up by saying I'm a professional game designer, ex-creative director with many historically significant video games. That's very kind. A walking and talking game encyclopedia. I read the Matrix code of any board game, improving the 2-player implementation in real time, all while effortlessly losing to Jen. I feel seen, quite frankly. And now Matt continues. So, now, please pitch us some ideas of how you would restore Monopoly and turn it into an interesting and thematic board game. I've not played Monopoly since I was a little kid. As I understand it, if you just play Monopoly by the rules, in fact, actually, Dan King, the Board Game Geek, did a very, very good video a few months ago. If you go to Board Game Geek, or search for Board Game Geek on YouTube, and then on his channel, search for Monopoly, you will find he and his friends thought Monopoly was garbage, sat down and actually played it the way it's supposed to be played, and came out saying, oh my gosh, there was a lot here I never appreciated because my entire life I've been playing it wrong. So there's that, first of all. Play it by the appropriate rules. Because there is a reason it is still, to this day, one of the most played games in the world, and there's more tournaments devoted to Monopoly than any game other than Magic the Gathering. That's a lie. I just made it up. But it feels true. Because there are tons of Monopoly tournaments, and there are people... you can dive so deep just into the core game as it is, focusing on probabilistic determination of what the dice might do to you. So you make choices, and your number one choice is, do I buy property or not? Because if you choose not to buy property, then you give the other players the opportunity to buy property through an auction. And if they do that, they've got to decide how much are they willing to spend based on a very, very deep dive into the probabilistic results of 2 dice being rolled at the same time. And apparently there are such amazing, huge hidden depths just amongst that the game is a worthy successor. Now, all that said, what would I do? There's a few obvious things. I would either turn it into a race, as we were talking about earlier, and say it's not trying to run everybody else out of business, which I think is the original intent. Or no. The original Monopoly was a sarcastic take, but then people took it, hey, it's kind of like Santa Maria. They did a sarcastic take on a bad thing in life, and it ends up celebrating it. That's exactly what Monopoly does. Because monopolistic tendencies are net bad for humanity. There's good things that come out of it too. I don't mean to say otherwise, but net overall bad. But I would want to say, hey, first player to have this much money, or even better, we are going to play for X number of turns, and we introduce some very simple way. Everybody gets 7 trips around the board, period. Something like that. And so all of a sudden, oh man, I keep rolling high. I'm burning through this too fast. I've got to adjust my strategy and figure out what I'm buying and selling based on the fact that I'm only going to get so many turns. And the lower I go, the slower I go, the more likely I am to have to pay to land on somebody else's property. But by the same token, the more time I'll get to do things. And at what point do I want to shift stuff around? Interestingly, that is already becoming more interesting because you don't get rid of all that other stuff I just talked about, but now you're adding this extra level. And honestly, a much simpler and on the surface level to understand and grok and focus on. And then the other thing I would love to do, I would basically just steal from Stefan Feld, who made a roll and write game. Or not a roll and write. He ran a roll and move game. What one is it? It was the Olympus one, right? And there's been some other people who have done this as well. Or no, Merlin. I'm thinking of Merlin. In Merlin is a roll and move game. You roll some dice, they tell you how far you can move on a track, and where you land, you do whatever it says. That sounds like Monopoly, doesn't it? But Merlin gives you a lot of control over those dice. So everything I just said, where there is a fixed length, and on the simplest level, I would simply say it's a matter of, hey, after I roll the dice, I can move the value of one of the dice, the value of the other die, or the value of the dice combined. So I have usually 3 different locations I could land on. Now, I don't know. I suspect that would break some of the fundamental goodness that is inherent to Monopoly. But you know what? It would become a different game, and it would become a game I'd be much more interested in. As now I've got 3 places I could land. Oh, I got to decide, am I going to land on that thing that I can't afford to buy, which means other people would then get it in auction, or am I going to land on that one, which I have to pay, or otherwise I have to land on one of yours, because I'm playing with multiple people. Also, I would say make it a 3-player minimum game, just right off the bat. Don't even try to play it 2-player. Maybe even a 4-player minimum. So I'm going to be in a situation where, based on these numbers, I'm going to land on something that's going to make an auction that I can't win, or I'm going to land on yours or yours. And who do I want to have that money? Because if I can afford both of them, that's a tough choice to make. And interestingly, I think I would be engaged from start to finish in the 10 rounds of that game, where after 10 rounds, whoever has, everybody sells all their property, and whoever has the most money wins. I'd do more, but that's a starting point. And I think that sounds actually pretty cool. Although, unfortunately, it's not a 2-player game. Okay, Nigel says, it seems, and this just came in this morning, Holy Grail Games, the publisher of Rallyman GT, Museum Dominations, Encyclopedia, etc., has, as of today, February 14th, 2023, declared bankruptcy. He sends a link where you can go to their website and learn more. Citing, among other reasons, snowballing problems that started in 2020 lockdown, production delays, rising shipping, manufacturing costs, etc. This means that their most recent Kickstarter project, Copan, the Dying City, will not happen. Backers will likely lose most, if not all, of their investment. Obviously, this is not the first time for this to happen to a Kickstarter publisher, and crowdfunding carries a certain amount of risk, like any financial venture. But seeing as the effects of COVID continue to reverberate around the world, do you feel that publishers and backers should exercise caution when considering crowdfunding at the moment? Or, from what you've seen, is this business as usual? No, there's nothing usual in the world now. COVID changed everything. And I don't know, there was a couple of months ago I mentioned in a video, hey folks, bear in mind, the shipping and logistics issues of the world have had an effect. I remember what I was talking about. Some gamer and somebody out in the comments said, there are no shipping and logistics. Everything's back to normal. Everything's fine. What are you talking about, Rahdo? And I'm like, what world do you live in? Do you not understand that even if there are not huge backlogs to halfway through the Pacific Ocean and coming out of the ports of Los Angeles, it doesn't change the fact that the knock-on effects from when that was the case are still reverberating throughout the industry. And Tasty Minstrel Games was the canary in the coal mine. They were the first to go, but Holy Grail Games is going now, and they are not going to be the last. We're going to see this happen more because we see it all over the place. Small, plucky, independent developers that could not weather this storm, or it seemed like they could weather this storm, but they were mortally wounded, and one wrong step could destroy them, which is what happened with Holy Grail Games. We haven't heard the last of this. There are many publishers out there desperately clinging to life right now. And one bad interaction with their distribution partner or their fulfillment logistics department could destroy them. Because ultimately, you're right to point out that the 2020 on and the logistics issues and all of that played a huge role. But the bullet that killed them was the fact that they had a distribution partner that failed. I mean, all their games are sitting in warehouses, ready to go. And they've been there for 6 to 8 months. And they have been trying desperately to get those games out to their people. They missed Black Friday. If they could have had their games to retailers, and they couldn't because they were literally being held hostage by their distribution partner, they would have had the money in the tank to be able to weather the fact that they recently discovered that retail outlets are basically putting orders on hold because retail outlets are still hurting to this day. And yes, everybody wants to point to, this superstore is doing great. Amazon's doing better than ever before. And you know what? Those are the exceptions to the rules. I'm talking about the mom and pops that are being destroyed. It's heartbreaking. So, with all that said, there's a lot of things I don't agree with Tom Vassell on, but one of the things I've always agreed with him that he said many, many years ago, folks, never, ever for 1 second considering backing anything on Kickstarter for money that you can't afford to lose. Period. That has always been the case. And up until now, we as an industry, because of our just absolutely explosive and ultimately unsustainable growth, have not really had to reckon with. We're having to reckon with it now. I read all the stuff about Holy Grail Games. I mean, you can read the one thing on their main webpage, but if you want the whole picture, you have to go read the updates for Dirt and for Copan and all the rest of it. Because there's all kinds of little extra bits. If you want the full picture, read all of it. Because they say, this is how it affects you Copan backers. This is how it affects you Dirt backers. And there's all kinds of little extra bits there. And it was fascinating and incredibly depressing because Holy Grail Games made amazing titles. Copan Dying City was going to be their best game yet. And you know what? If it hadn't failed to perform, I mean, it's so underperformed when it was on Kickstarter. If one little thing, that could have kept them going to weather the storm. But it was just a bunch of stuff that compounded, that started with COVID but did not end. All these other things that compounded are just day-to-day business stuff that they had to deal with. So, yeah, prepare for more. It's a real shame because I imagine if Copan could have done their normal 2,000 backers, they'd still be alive today. But it only did 1,000. Why did it only do 1,000? Even though it was by far the best game they've designed and published, or prototype that I've played of theirs to date, because they were already mortally wounded by a very bad distribution partner. Now, here's what I don't know. Why did the distribution partner screw them over so royally, sending their games to people who never ordered them and refusing to send to other ones and all kinds of stuff? I don't know. I'm sure they've got their side of the story as well. I am sure they have been affected by the change in the world also. So I'm a bit loath to, just say they are literally mustache-twirling villains. Maybe they are. Sometimes you get mustache-twirling villains in the world. Most of the time, you get people doing their best and not delivering. So I don't know what the situation is. But yeah, is it business as usual? No. I mean, I'm old enough. I was playing Atari games back when the video game industry collapsed. Although it was a very different thing there. It was, things had accelerated so fast that shovelware became the norm. Every game that came out for the Atari was garbage because people were just trying. It was a literal gold rush, a digital pixel gold rush. And the industry couldn't sustain it and everybody just stopped buying because it was garbage. Very different thing here because we are not in the middle of we are in the middle of a board game gold rush, although on a much smaller scale, obviously. It's always been a tiny scale. We've always been a drop in the bucket compared to other media. But still, a gold rush of sorts. But the interesting thing is, the very nature of board game development, which is more to the metal, and there aren't as many confounding factors, although there are still plenty, which is what we're seeing here, but we are not in a shovelware state. We are not where the Atari 2600 was, where, no matter what you buy, it's garbage. No matter what you buy, 80% of every game that's published is beautiful and brilliant and smart and pushes the industry forward. And yeah, there are 20% out there, but even the most tiny bit of critical appraisal and analysis would immediately reveal what's garbage, and it's easy to stay away from it. So we're in a different state where there are the board game industry, or the board game buying populace is not growing as fast as the board game industry was growing. And that is leading to a contraction. And it probably wouldn't have been a slow, gradual contraction, but worldwide pandemic definitely kicked it into overdrive. And I hate to say it, but I loved Holy Grail games. I have met these people in real life. They are kind and generous and funny and warm and brilliant. They were on track to be one of the best, most consistently reliable publishers out there. But one too many, death of a thousand cuts. And unfortunately, probably 700 of those cuts came from all the knock-on effects from COVID. And it breaks my heart. I don't know if that answers the question, but there you go. Alrighty. Oliver says, Stonemeyer just announced a new game Expedition. What's your excitement level? Will you be covering it? I'm excited. My excitement level is high. I will be covering it. I talked about this earlier, so we're going to skip this because I got to get moving. Polly says, just curious. Do you think after retiring from Rahdo, you'll play all the games you kept in your collection? There's so many. Yes, of course I will. I started talking about this earlier. My ideal day is, hey, every day I just play one game with Jen. And then whatever else. Well, come what may, but I play one game every day. And I could imagine, for 1 month, hey, let's do alphabets. And then another month, let's every day let's play another Feld game. And then every day let's play another worker placement game. And I could imagine doing that with these 400 games for the rest of my natural life. And I look forward to being able to do it. You just have to remember, don't forget, I plan to live a long freaking time. Which means I might have to keep doing this for a long time too. Who knows? I plan on making it over 100. I plan on making it to 100, which is what? Over 40 years from now, right? I'm 53. Yeah. I plan on making it to 100, and by that point, there will have been so many breakthroughs in de-aging that, hey, by that point, people at 100, it's no big deal to live 200. And that, after another 100 years have passed, by that point, we will have literally cured aging, and everybody can live eternal lives, provided they don't suffer, instant, medical trauma. And fingers crossed, I make it. Now, at that point, 400 games is probably not enough if we're talking about eternity. But I plan on keeping my mind sharp. I plan one game a day, every day, for the rest of my life. And I hope more games keep coming, no matter what slowdowns hit the industry. Shonks. Are you the last one? Yes, this is it, folks. We got to the yeses. Shonks had a bunch of questions, but I think they were all pretty easy. What elements do I feel are a crucial part of worker placement? For me, the most important thing about a worker placement game is do something new and different. If you don't, I'm not interested. One of the best worker placement games last year was Teotihuacan, not the original Teotihuacan, which does a lot of really cool worker placement stuff too, but the what's it called? Yeah, the Founders of Teotihuacan's right there. Love it. Don't ever remember to be in my top 10 of the year, because it's a worker placement game where, hey, I place my worker, I do the thing. If I'm the first person there, I get a really big bonus that's gone. But now, that space is still available. I didn't freeze anybody else out. Anybody else can go to that space, and they put their worker on top of mine, and they do a double action because there's two workers. And then I go back there again, and I put it on top of this little stack, and now I get to do a triple action of that action. That's freaking amazing! Why is everybody not singing this game's praises from the rooftop? Because that just fundamentally rewires your relationship with worker placement. So you ask, what is most important? Not that specifically, but approaching worker placement and not just doing the same old that we've had since Bus and Agricola. Number 2, do you feel like scoring in a game has to be on its own track or can be thematically integrated into the game? You mean like, instead of getting 50 points, there are 5 trophies, and once all 5 trophies have been taken, literally lifted off the board, that's what triggers the end of the game? Yeah, I suppose. I'm sure there's lots of ways to do it, but I like score tracks. To me, a score track is implicitly thematic. There is honestly, for the way modern economies work, which, by the way, folks, whenever I say Eurogame, in almost every circumstance, I am saying Euro is synonymous with economy. If I say my top favorite Euro games, I'm saying my top favorite economic games. Because really, to me, that's what defines, because if you think broadly, if you don't just think about, economics is just money, right? Coming and going. No. Economics is a broader branch of human endeavor that has to do with the exchange of goods and services, quite frankly, to summarize it more. And that is what all Euros are. And at the end of the day, we gauge our success in the real world, in real economic circumstances, off of metrics that are very, very similar to a victory point track. So to me, victory point tracks are incredibly thematic for Euros, considering what Euros really, really are. Meeples, miniatures, or those clear standees with the art printed on both of them. Number 3, if the 2 sides show the front and the back. A standee, whether it's acrylic or cardboard, and honestly, Honestly, I'm going to say cardboard because that is better for the planet than acrylic. But I love acrylics too. But the important thing, Legends of Andor style, and almost nobody does this. I do not understand why. Put the front of the character on one side and the back of the character on the other side so it feels like you've got miniatures, strictly speaking, because you can see, oh, they're walking away from me, they're walking towards me. But you don't have big lumps of gray, boring blobs on your table. You have beautiful art instead. Jamie Stegmaier recently talked about rounds in games and how that works, and I thought that was interesting since I don't think it's something I've thought about. Do you have any feelings on rounds as a mechanism? Necessary? Do you even notice if they are there? Was there a game that had a round mechanism that made you go, wow, that was awesome? Or whatever you would say in that instance? Don't want to assume you have exclamations. I exclaim all the freaking time. Yeah, rounds are great. I think generally speaking, structure is great. I personally respond more to a structured game that gives me a simulation with clear boundaries that I have to work within to solve a problem. Because personally, as a video game designer for 20 years, that is what I always responded to the best. If the publisher said, do whatever you want, the sky's the limit, I would just curl up into a ball and be able to make no progress. When they said, okay, this is your schedule, this is your budget, and these are the three things we need, to fulfill our library, our catalog for that year when you're going to come out. I'm like, yes, you've just given me a puzzle to solve. I will spend the next 2 to 3 years of my life figuring out how to solve that puzzle. Please don't change the rules. Please don't give me more time. Allow me to make compromises. One of the things that drove me nuts is, some of the worst mistakes I ever made as a video game designer was, they said, right, this is your ship date, and this is the money you have. That's not going to change. Go. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And to be able to achieve that, I'm going to have to make these compromises. And I designed those compromises into the game. And then, 3 months before we ship, they say, hey, you know what? We're going to give you another 6 months so things can come together because we really wish there were some more pieces. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have cut that stuff out 2 years ago if you would have told me I literally have 3 years rather than 2.5 years. But I cut all that stuff out, and if we would have been able to do that from the beginning, if you hadn't, changed the goalposts, we would have had a better game to begin with because you would have given me a different puzzle to solve. Sorry, I'm just having flashbacks. But anyway, so if that gives you some idea of how my brain approached my professional career for 20 years, hopefully gives you an idea of how I approach board games, what I find enjoyable. I like structure. I don't like sandboxes as a general rule. A few exceptions here or there, but as a general rule. And rounds are a really great structure that just works wonderfully, that just makes things sing. They don't need to be justified. They're just great. They aren't necessary. But I would almost say, all things being equal, an imposed round structure can give you so much more in your designer toolbox. It is almost fait accompli that a game with rounds, all other things being equal, is a better game than one without rounds. I'll throw that onto top of whatever Jamie said. Now, that doesn't mean rounds have to be fixed. Like, speaking of Jamie, Tapestry, most people think, it's just a game that just keeps going forever until everybody has taken all their turns. No. Tapestry has player-enforced rounds rather than rules-enforced rounds because of how you spend your resources and when you decide to play a Tapestry card. In the same way that Concordia has rounds. Because my round is over when I eventually decide to say, okay, I'm done, I'm getting my deck of cards back. I think that's actually a really cool in-between of fixed rounds where you get exactly 4 turns and then the round or year or decade or whatever you want to call it is over. But I love them all. More structure is a good thing. Structure in games, being able to solve problems is what we play games because it's fun to solve problems. It gives us a dopamine rush when we think we have overcome an obstacle because it gives us a dopamine rush in real life. It gives us a smaller one, but no less real, the actual brain chemistry when we do it in tabletop form. So a game that gives us more problems to solve without going too far is implicitly going to create more, positive feedback brain chemistry in your brain. And rounds support that, in my opinion. What programs do you use for streaming and editing? I'm streaming in Streamlabs OBS because Streamlabs OBS has the opportunity for me to record one thing, which is whatever I'm doing without all the cool little avatars on the bottom, because people on YouTube seem to hate the stream avatars. Twitch people love it. YouTube people hate it. So Streamlabs lets me record with all the avatars and the stickers and all that stuff turned off while I'm streaming with all the stuff turned on. I do not understand why regular OBS does not do this. I wish they would, because regular OBS is so much more powerful and gives me so many more tools. And it doesn't take up anywhere near as many resources. But I got to stick with Streamlabs OBS because it gives me this extra flexibility. For editing, I have basically, ever since I really I used to use the YouTube editor until they canceled it. I've tried some various online free editors. Eventually, I broke down and paid, I believe, a one-time fee on Amazon of $60 for Power Director. I think it's now $90. But the reason Power Director does almost everything Adobe Premiere does, but you are not required to spend $200 a year as a subscription fee. You can just pay a one-time, I forget what it is now. I'm way behind. I should upgrade because I know there's a lot of features I don't have, but I'm very, very cheap. And Power Director does the job good enough. I have dabbled with Premiere, and make no mistake, Premiere is superior once you get your head around the changes in control paradigms and interface. But and I don't know. I need to look into this more because I know Jen, I think she subscribes to Photoshop, or no, maybe she doesn't. I think she stopped, or my wife is a glass artist, but she's also a professional graphic designer, and I think she stopped on a version of Photoshop before it became hey, you have to pay us every month to use this software, before it became subscription service. And I suspect, I wonder if she had the full suite. I wonder if I can get the Premiere from that. I'll have to look. But anyway, that's where I am right now, and that's where we are, folks. And if you were just here for games, hang on a little bit because we'll be right back because I have one more game question, but Jen will be joining me. So, hang on. Oh my gosh, folks. Are you still here? 94 of you are still here? Oh my God, I went an hour and 15 minutes over. So I guess trying to blow through the, didn't make much of a difference. I can feel it. I am so exhausted. Have any questions come up? A few. All right. Let's go. Let's do a few questions. All right. Mom Gamer says, would you consider doing an autobiography podcast? You mean, if there's a podcast that specializes in autobiographies and they want me to come on and answer questions about my life, sure. I've done that in the past. If you go to rahdo.com, MG, and scroll down to the bottom, there's I think like additional playlists, and one of those playlists is called interviews and events. And if you open that up, you'll see a lot of interviews I've done with people over the years, mostly about board games. But I remember one very specifically that was with Scott Alden, the head of Board Game Geek, and he just wanted to talk about my life in general. So there's a lot of autobiographical stuff in there. If I recall correctly, I think there was a lot of autobiographical stuff in 5 Days to Doomsday as well. So yeah, I've kind of done it in the past, and I guess I'd be up for doing it. But I don't know, these days, people still ask me to jump on the podcast, and more often I say no these days, because I'm just getting so old and tired. But maybe, you never know. Doing it myself, coming out, hey, let's put my own autobiography on that would just be I would feel way too self-aggrandizing important, so I don't think I'd be comfortable with that. Next up. Delta Von Tussle. After your evaluation of Santa Maria, how do you feel about Americo, San Juan, etc.? Those just gloss over the realities. That is an interesting observation, Delta. You're right. I'm actually, if anything, punishing Santa Maria for actually addressing things hands-on in an academically interesting way, and I just can't bring myself to play it. Honestly, I think I'm going to get rid of San Juan as well. I'm pretty sure it's going to go on my going down to Board Game Geek. Although my copy is so old and so dog-eared, I don't think they'd have a use for it. Because I think, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And Amerigo is in my wife's top 10 games of all time. And while she appreciates everything I'm talking about, honestly, I don't know where she'd come down. I don't know if she would play Hogwarts Legacy. I think it's a good point, and honestly, I don't have all the answers. These are tough things to figure out, I'll be honest. But Santa Maria, when I actually sat down and really started thinking about it right at the same time that I was trying to, how do I feel about this Hogwarts Legacy thing? I mean, the parallels were so omnipresent. Amerigo, because they were cheap and silly and cheesy and literally dodged the question. I mean, that game, Amerigo, is so much more abstract. I mean, it could just easily be set on the moon. Or a anthropomorphized animal fantasy kingdom, or whatever it might be. Or it could literally be reformed into amoebas and whatnot, spreading throughout a petri dish. The whole game could be in a petri dish. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that, but I mean, it is something I have to reckon with. Okay, Goblin says, if you were working for the studio that wanted to make Hogwarts Legacy, what would you have done? Fought to make not anti-Semitic, walked out, etc. That's a really good question. Especially because once upon a time, I came this close to being the creative director on a Harry Potter game many, many years ago. After the success of EverQuest, but well before World of Warcraft existed, Electronic Arts had the publishing rights for Harry Potter, and they were doing a bunch of ultimately just really quick, not very good, knockout games to make sure they launched in day and date with the movies. But they were talking about, hey, this EverQuest thing's a really big deal. Maybe we should do a Harry Potter massively multiplayer online game. And that is the reason I ever read Harry Potter in the first place. It's very likely I probably never would have read Harry Potter books if I wasn't studying to interview for this job. Now, as it turned out, they never did it, so it didn't matter. But over the years, it kept coming up, and I had friends in EA, and I've said, hey, you put me on the list, because I would definitely want to do that, because my wife and I really love these Harry Potter things that I read, because I maybe get this job. So, fast forward to today. If I were still in the industry, here's the deal. How long has Harry Potter been in development? Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy. I would guess at least 3 to 5 years. So I think the reality is I probably would have been working on this game well before J.K. Rowling really started to double down. I don't know when she first did that in defense of women, that first thing she did. Was it 5 years ago? How long ago? I don't know what the timeline is. I would like to say, if near the end of Hogwarts Legacy, they had wanted to hire me, and I was still interested in working there, I would have said, no thanks, I'm going to pass. I would have passed on the job. If I was already working on the job, and then things developed as they have right now, and just gotten to the absolutely absurd lengths where she regularly now just bruncheons with, I don't want to say hate mongers, but with very misguided people, let's say, and signal boosts their message to the stratosphere, and it's directly harmful to marginalized people who need our help, not our hate. And she supports that. If I was already working on the game, everything was going great, and then that started happening, I can't say for sure, but I think my inclination would be, I would have to go to my boss and say, this is bullshit. Oh, gosh darn it. I really try hard not to curse. I already have to add some other stuff. Maybe I'll try to remember to bleep that. I apologize if I don't. This is a real problem. I can't, in good faith, continue to work on this game. Unless. And I would want to double down, triple down, quadruple down on trying to make Hogwarts Legacy a force for good. Now, I believe the developers did this to a certain extent, and they tried, and they messed up in some ways. Like, they did put an LGBTQ playable character in, but it's still apparently a heteronormative actor playing. It's like, well, okay, if you really want to do it right, go out and get a trans actor to do the voice work for this trans character. And they didn't, but I'm sure they were trying their best. So to me, what I would have wanted to do, I would have wanted to work with people in, I'm not sure. Honestly, I would want to reach out to Jessie Gender. If you don't know her channel, it's another Star Trek channel, YouTube channel that's great. And I love her. And she is a trans Star Trek video maker. I would want to reach out to her and other people like her because of that geek divide, and yet she's really knowledgeable about this. And I would want to say, what can we do here? Now, I suspect one of the big things that would ultimately come out of it, to try to right this ship and make it a force for good. And the biggest thing is, I would probably demand, you know what, I'm going to have to leave unless is it Warner Brothers? I think it's Warner Brothers. You have to commit. And they'd probably say no, and it means I'd probably leave. But maybe not. Maybe Jessie could give me some other advice. Because I would look for advice. I would want to talk to the people who are affected by this. That's the important thing. It's not my place to figure out how to make the world a better place. You need to listen to the people who are marginalized, and they'll be able to help you figure it out rather than you being a white knight and figuring it out for them. But I certainly think one of the big things is I would want $10 from every sold game of this to go to LGBTQ causes. So you know that when you're buying the game, you are tacitly, on some level, sending what? 75 cents of support to a transphobe that literally makes the world a worse place. But at the same time, you are sending $10.75 to organizations that are literally making the world better. At the very least, I think it would start with something like that. And I would want in the rule book full-throated, and I would say, can we get freaking Daniel Radcliffe to appear in a video before the game starts saying, hey, everybody, I'm Daniel Radcliffe. I know most of you just want to sit down and play the game, but let me spend a few minutes talking with my friend here so we can give you an idea of some of the issues that are going on. Okay, we really appreciate it, and we really appreciate your $10 that went to these particular causes, and now enjoy the game. I would think there may be something. Now, and maybe I'm wrong. But I mean, I'd probably be trying to think about stuff like that. And if something like that couldn't work, I think I would eventually have to walk. Because it's the least I can do. And because I can do it knowing that I'd be able to get another job anywhere, no problem. So it's not like I'm losing anything. Just like, hey, just don't play the game. You're not losing anything. It's just a trifle. It'll be in and out of your life in no time. It's not going to change your life not to play this game. For me, and so, obviously I know a lot of people who worked on that game, they can't just get another job really easy. So, I'm sympathetic to that too. Alrighty. Okay, we got the last one. Goblin, regarding sports, what do you think about the Olympics? The Olympics are not professional sports. I was very careful to talk about professional sports. If the Olympics, which are quasi-professional, quite frankly, if the Olympics could stay true to the fact that they were a testament to our better nature, and didn't become commercialized like they had. And I wish something like that, if we could turn back time and get it back to that, I think that's a big difference between professional sports. But ultimately at this point, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. Honestly, this is the first time, this particular episode, I have ever given much thought to my true feelings about sports. I've always just known, I don't like them, don't care for them, not interested in watching them. This podcast made me really reckon with, why do I feel that way? What is it? And, and again, I could follow up with this on a future podcast, the stuff, the actual ill that I think it brings to society. Anyway, though, continuing. All right, what do you think about the Olympics, which at least in theory are about amateurs competing to see who can jump the highest, throw the furthest, or whatever? Doesn't have the gambling industry so ingrained with it. I'm not sure you can bet on the Olympics. I'm sure you can. And I'm sure people's lives get destroyed all the time doing so. But it's not the same as the focus on something like football or horse racing. Yes, so it's certainly better. Although in some ways, is it just a? I'm not quite sure. I don't know enough about the reality of the Olympics. I know that there is a lot of corruption and graft and real big problems that destroy or that do real harm to hosting countries. And all the money that goes into it could be spent so much better just to see, as you say, let's sum it up. All of this money wasted to find out who can jump 2 inches higher than somebody else. And I say, who gives a damn? It doesn't matter. It mattered more when back in our primitive early days, when being able to jump 2 inches higher could be the difference between life and death. I'll grant you that. But we have evolved beyond so many things, and sports being something that anybody cares about in any way other than just a fun, innocuous little way that you can compete with your friends and family on a Sunday afternoon, some buds getting together and playing some flag football or shooting hoop down at the Y. That's the only use for sport in today's society as far as I'm concerned. And all the rest of it can go. Alrighty. Phew! Alrighty. Oh, I see I lost 10 people there. I got a little saucy at the end. But folks, we are done. Is there anybody to raid right now? All right, let's go to twitch.com.tv, not Ruel's page, and then let's search for board games. I am way deeper in the afternoon than I normally am at this time. I need board space games, don't I? Board space games. Browser. Alrighty, live channels. Hobby Hangout, painting some Marvel. Professional Casual Network is doing some painting. Hey, a bunch of you came in here from painting. Maybe you'd like to go back to some painting? That looks like a video game. That is a video. Oh, Blood on the Clock Tower. That's a board game. Fog of Love, Girl Games 2. Folks, Fog of Love is amazing. Fog of Love is what the industry needs more of. There are 3 viewers on Girls Game 2 watching Fog of Love right now. Please stick around. Right, okay. Please stick around because we are going to raid them. Raid them. Come on back. Where'd my raid button go? What was it? Girls Game 2. Folks, drown them in love and positivity for reminding all of us that, hey, Girls Game 2. And games don't have to be about killing and beating other people. They can be about people working together. Oh, this makes me so happy to end on this. Where is the button? We are going to start this raid, folks. The countdown is upon us. Where is it? Oh, I can barely see it. Here we go. We are ready to raid in 3, 2, 1. Go. All righty. That is awesome. And here is some Carl's Jr. All right. Come on. Oh, I should have done that because I want to see. Hopefully they notice. But even if they don't, hopefully they get a few subscribers. And hopefully 2 ads. Come on. Oh yeah, if they have ads and they're affiliates, so they're not nobodies. They've crossed that first threshold. Come on. There we are. Oh, I think they are way too deep into it, and they are obviously having a great time, and I hope everybody has a great time watching them. I'm exhausted. 3.5 hours. That was the longest stream I've ever done. Bye, everybody. Talk to you later. So long. Oh, bye-bye.